All right, everybody, welcome to the Whispers in the Fog podcast, which is the offshoot of the Killer Main podcast, where I don't bring on specific Killer Mains. Today's guest, if they would like to introduce themselves.
Hi, my name is Hans. I play DBD for a living. I stream, I do YouTube content, and yeah, I'm I would say I'm 50-50 on Survivor and Killer, but yeah, I do play a lot of Killer.
Yeah, I honestly, asking you to introduce yourself is I don't think it's considered, but if you don't know Hens, please check out Hens. All the links and stuff will be below: Twitch, YouTube, Twitter, Blue Sky, whatever else I can find. Um, but today's topic is content creator responsibility, and what I mean by this is where is the line? How much influence do content creators have, and how should they be using it? We'll probably get a little bit into the toxicer side of it. That's a word, uh, but I mostly want to relate it to more so the game's health and metas forming and things like that. Uh, so I think the first question I have here for you, Hens, is um, do metas form without content creators? Do you think they tend to form without them, or do you think it's do you think
Uh,
do you think Dead by Daylight's an odd game where it seems to be that because personally over the years I've noticed that content creators have a lot of influence in this game on as far as which perks are ran, which killers are
yeah,
considered good, and things like that.
sure. I mean, you can. I think the answer to that is yes. There will still be a meta because everyone like everyone gravitates towards things, and but I think overall Uh, content creators definitely make the meta more. They speed up the process a lot, and
Mm-hmm.
they make people like figure out what's good and what's not good. And yeah,
Have you ever? I'm trying to recall a moment like this, but have you ever noticed a moment where content creators will kind of like make a meta say something is like super good and it ends up being not true, and people just kind
uh,
of um just take the influence of said meta and just say it's good even though it's kind of not. I'm trying to think of an example offhand.
I
It's
mean, I mean that's like good and bad is so hard to define. I'm not sure if.
I'm trying like I might get some crap for saying this. I think like Chemtrap currently is a good example. Not to say it's a bad perk, but like I see people saying like it's quote meta, and I don't really think it's
I mean, yeah,
meta
like
in this in that
content creators
sense.
will always source up the builds and like this is the new thing that you need to
Hmm.
do, just to like. I mean, that's just like how the ecosystem of content creators kind of like works, right?
Yeah.
Because like everyone wants change and everyone wants something new. So I don't know. Yeah, I would not call it chemtrap meta. But it's like there's like if things become like viable and they actually become viable niche picks, then that's also already great. But like yeah, meta in itself is like something that needs to be defined. So I
Yeah.
would not call it something like that meta personally.
Yeah, I know one recently, and by the way, thank you for this because I'm pretty sure you're the reason I see it in every game. Dramaturgy finesse is a
True,
common thing right now.
true.
Um,
I think
Go ahead.
yeah, actually that's a good example because that's one of the ones where you can actually kind of pinpoint it down because like I made a video on it and it's like it kind of picked up and I think like it made people realize how strong it is. Because like yeah, if like I don't know, if you see it more and you have more exposure, you kind of like understand how strong something is because if nobody experiments in Double Daylights.
Hmm.
And dramaturgy was a thing for like a long time. For a long, long time. And it's like at this point, people kind of started to call on how strong it is because it's kind of like the concept of data for distance that it
Right.
used to be, and like you can kind of like stack second chances with finesse, as is really oppressive in conjunction.
Yeah, but I mean, I think my question with that one is, do you personally think it's the strongest build in the game right now in Survivor, or do you think it's just a decently strong build that just everyone's running because of how many?
Depends on what the goal is. Like one problem of that build is it's probably not that good against killers like Nurse or Blight. So it depends what you want with the build.
Mhm.
But on average, if you're relatively good, then finesse and yeah, I think it's also like kind of gets like the moment Resurgence got buffed to make it that easy to get back to full health. I think that was the moment when um finesse and dramaturgy really took off because the combination is so great. But yeah, I mean, it's definitely one of the strongest combos.
Yeah, it's funny how that works too, because those two perks in particular weren't touched at all. Just things around it were buffed. I think another good example of this on the killer side, I don't know if you've been seeing this more. I've been seeing rapid brutality a lot more recently.
Yeah,
Um, Especially on a lot of killers that don't get bloodlust anyways. But I mean, I've been running it on Chucky. I know that sounds
interesting. Yeah,
weird.
I've seen people do that. I don't know if you can get M1s frequently enough to make that work, but I think you can kind of like instantly dash onto people, right? So it seems like a decent combo.
Yeah, the reason I run it is it gives you more options. Because
Yeah.
if they're too close or you can't land an M2 or whatever, it's just landing the M1, going into cooldown, and then having the haste kind of makes up for the 14 seconds you have to wait. Plus the double taps are really nice with it. But my point with that is that it's interesting to see like when a perk or a specific killer that hasn't been touched in God knows how long, from months to years, suddenly becomes super strong out of like nowhere because something around them was buffed. And
Yeah.
then, yeah.
Or like sometimes it's yeah. I mean, sometimes it's also just a matter of like the community getting exposure to it, and then at that point it's like a snowball effect because people just realize
Hmm.
how strong it is, and then yeah, more people try it, and yeah.
Do you believe in placebo nerfs? Do you know what that is?
No, tell me, what is
So
it?
a placebo nerf is when you nerf something or change something in a way that is very minor. Something like this happened very recently with Thrill of the Hunt, actually, where you nerf it in a way that's very minor. So it's still good, it's still strong, but because it was nerfed at all, people just kind of drop and stop using it.
Yeah, I feel like people always like, yeah, I think that's pretty common about that actually, where people just like take like the, oh my god, this has been nerfed, and now I'm upset because this has been nerfed. But like in reality, it doesn't really matter that much. Or like another thing that got buffed is actually significant, and a thing that got nerfed is not that significant.
Hmm.
I feel like that happens very frequently within DBD.
Do you think content creators kind of feed into this a little bit as far as over exaggerating sometimes? I'm
Of
using,
course, I mean
I'm using sometimes in air
content
quotes.
content on DVD, from what I've learned, is like the majority of it is quote unquote news based. That's
Hmm.
like the easiest content you can make in DVD.
Right.
Everyone is like interested in what the new skins are, what the new parks are, what the new killer are. Like making content on things that are not new is relatively difficult
Hmm.
and like harder. That's why almost everyone, when like this new park comes out or new killer comes out, everyone makes a video on that. Because that's just what drives the clicks on Double Daylight.
Yeah, and that's very interesting considering what happened. I'm going to give away when this was recorded, but uh, it's very interesting considering what just happened because I criticized the idea of a health patch for that exact reason. um,
Yeah.
so we'll see what happens with that. Um, so I'm gonna lean this into a little bit of the toxic side that I was talking about as well. Um, so content creators, especially the bigger ones, I feel have a lot of pressure on them to, what's the word I'm looking for, to kind of show how people should be playing the game. And I think something recently that has happened with the Go Next epidemic is a lot of a lot of content creators are on one side of the fence and a lot are on the other, and it seems to be like dividing the player base on the whole topic for whatever reason. Do you think as creators we have a responsibility to kind of pick a side in that debate, or
Can you elaborate what the sites are?
so like there's some people who think that the Go Next epidemic is ruining the game and that people are
Oh,
giving up for the slightest reason and kind of just making the game miserable to play on both sides. And then there's
yeah.
others who make the argument of, uh, I bought the game, I don't want to play against this
Ah, yeah.
killer or this perk, or I don't enjoy this playstyle, so I have the right to just leave if I want. Now, when I say leave, I
Yeah.
don't even mean DC. I'm talking, give up on Hook and
Yeah.
whatnot. Yeah.
I mean, valid point, but like, it's kind of like prisoner's dilemma where like if everyone does that, then nobody has fun anymore because like the entire game is just ruined. And yeah, it is like the problem that Double Daylight has is like if it's like a 3-1, like very early on, so one survivor dies, then there's not much fun to be had in that game,
Mm-hmm.
which like leads to like a few issues because like if someone does that very frequently, then the fun is just greatly diminished for every other player that's still in that match, which is why it becomes a problem. Like obviously I personally wouldn't care, but yeah, it has a great effect on the quality of matches and like how I personally have fun in DBD.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I try my hardest not to go next if possible.
Mm-hmm.
And just like avoid that to lead by example. But like at the same time, sometimes some situations are really hopeless. And yeah, I think it's kind of like an outcry from people that are like a little bit upset about certain things in the game and that are kind of like yeah playing a little bit too much.
Yeah, I think another example with this, I hate uttering her name because I know I will summon someone if I do. But Skull Merchant was a huge proponent of this as far as many people would go next, even if they just caught a whiff of a Skull Merchant in their match. Um,
Yeah, that
and
is yeah
and
yeah
you know, go ahead.
yeah. Scavenge is actually quite a fascinating topic because like it feels like it's like so polarized to the absolute maximum
Hmm.
that like in terms of pettiness on both sides that is like it's almost I don't know it's almost unsavable like to the point where I don't know I don't want to name names but like the pettiness comes from both sides. That's absolutely I think that's fair to say and I think the Scarmation players also have a right to be upset and it's like absolutely like a miserable experience too for them.
Hmm.
But like yeah it's kind of like it feels like it's like a yeah, both sides are very, very upset and like nobody wants to play the game anymore. And like I've seen on a Twitter profile recently that like from a skirmish main, they literally had in their bio, the only thing they had in their bio, if you give up at 5 gens, I will bleed you out.
Oh
That's
my
like the kind of
god.
energy that gives as a bio on someone's profile. I think that like kind of sums it up quite a bit, to be honest.
It- yeah, like I feel like there's a way to because I play a very hated killer. I don't know if you know. I mean Chucky. I mean I've mentioned him a couple times already, but
Yeah.
I played a killer who is very hated by the community. Uh, Somehow more I've noticed recently. It's just not as apparent if that makes any sense. Um,
Yeah. I mean, it's not as annoying to play against them anymore.
I think the toxicity, like the amount went down, but the vitriol went up. If that makes any sense. The ones who still hate him. Um, but my point with that is like that there's a line and there's a way to respond to like the quote hate. Like if people don't enjoy playing against Skull Merchant in the DC, do I think they should? No. Do I technically think they have the right to? I suppose. Especially if they're in like a group, like if everyone's making the decision to like leave the match, sure, whatever. It sucks for the Skull Merchant player,
Yeah.
but there's not really much you can
Like,
do about that.
I don't know. I think it's at this point it's like it's not even about like the gameplay
Hmm.
anymore. It's like a thing that is like almost like yeah you have to DC against Gaussian. Like honestly, that's like half a kill at this point. Like why I don't really see it anymore to be honest.
Yeah.
Like I see like close to no gameplay reasons to leave against the Sky Merchant. So yeah, it's like feels like it is so fully polarized to the max
Hmm.
that nothing really matters. As like they just refuse to acknowledge the existence of this killer because it has been like it was in a problematic state for so long that there's no almost like there's no coming back from that anymore.
The first impressions matter, and
Yeah,
her first
it is.
impression wasn't good. Uh, not to shame the Skull Merchant players, but her first impression wasn't good. We can all agree on that. Um,
Yeah,
and I think that's just kind of stuck. And I know some people say that's not true. People still don't enjoy her for valid reasons, but I kind of disagree with that. Um, it also sucks because part of the reason her impressions at first weren't even that great wasn't even totally her fault. Uh, which is because Knight kind of caught a brunt of it, and then they fixed the 3 gen stuff about a year later. I want to say it was a year. It was either a year or like 6 months. I don't remember, but they fixed it eventually, and then they reworked her, and then people were still giving up, and then behavior kind of felt like they had to do something. And while I don't fully
Yeah,
agree with what they did, I understand why they did it. I don't think it was the right decision, uh, and it kind of sets a bad precedent for some things going forward. Some would argue Chucky kind of had the same situation happen to a degree, um, and same with Trickster, which was a weird one. But like I feel like as creators and like bigger voices in the community, I do think that we need to. I mean, everyone says it, positivity is important, but like there is a line with that. At the end of the day, we are still human, and I get that, but like I don't think you should be encouraging people to outwardly be toxic towards someone just because of the way they play the game.
yeah, of course.
Um, moving on a little bit, and because I mentioned Trickster, so Trickster had a bug about, was it Christmas? No, it was anniversary. It's like, geez, it's been a while. It was anniversary of last year. It was the epilepsy bug where it would kind of cause your screen to flash a bunch after getting hit with a knife. I don't know the specifics exactly how it happened because no one would tell me for obvious reasons, which leads into part of the question of this, which
I
is,
mean,
go ahead.
yeah, that one was a bit odd. I mean, I think there's a bit more nuance to that one that is not publicly known. But yeah, that was not really a trickster specific issue.
Right, but my question with this is when something like that happens, right? Because
Mm-hmm.
uh, is it Trickster wasn't really like a widely played killer. At least he wasn't played like a super well amount. And
Yeah.
a lot of people really didn't know about the epilepsy thing, especially on the Trickster side. But the question becomes: should we, as creators, do we have the responsibility to make it known that this bug is a thing as much as we did, to the point to where people started using it a little bit maliciously?
Yeah. Yeah,
Because I feel
I'll be
like
honest. I'm not sure what like that. That's gonna be an interesting thing. I don't know what really happened to that regard.
mhm,
It's a bit of a. I think it's not the way it was publicly like publicly known. So like, the one issue you have, right? Like hypothetically, you are like, all right, there could be this thing, and we're just gonna kill Trickster. So no, okay, like hypothetically, you say that, right?
mhm.
Then you have the Q&A department is gonna be like, all right, what leads do we have? And if they're like, yeah, we have like nothing, we have like this one video, we don't even know what what PC they run. What do you do then?
Right. Right. Well, yeah,
What do you
that's
do?
the thing that they do need like
Like,
to figure out exactly.
do you just never allow tricks again? Do they go on a crazy hunt to find like the specific specs where the game malfunctions and like Unreal Engine misrenders something? Like it's a bit more nuanced than that. Also, I don't think it was actually Trickster specific, if I'm not mistaken. But I don't want to get too deep into that topic. But like I think I know for a fact that was like a lot more nuanced than the community knew. But
Yeah.
like at the same time, it felt a bit odd, yeah, because like videos popped up and like supposedly someone went to the hospital. I was like, you obviously have like a responsibility, like to not let that happen, right? And I
Mhm.
think there were definitely people who were way too slow to act. But I don't even know how that ended, to be honest.
They, they
Like
they
what
they fixed it eventually. It's been
they fixed it
fixed.
eventually.
Yeah.
Okay.
They made a statement about it. They fixed it. They put an epilepsy warning in the game finally,
Okay. Oh
which
yeah, yeah, true.
which wasn't there for some reason.
I know there was like there were clips of the same thing happening on Blight. I know that.
On
I
Blight?
know that much. Yeah.
I,
But that
I
was not
I wasn't aware of that one.
yeah, yeah. I mean it's like yeah, it's a bit odd because like if people yeah, no. It's a little bit odd.
Well, I mean, the broader question here is like things like the current flashbang bug, right? Which apparently has been fixed 3 times. But like the current flashbang bug at the moment, it's like I saw flashbangs a decent amount, like one maybe one every other match for a little bit, and then that one clip started floating around. And then people were saying they were bugged, which they were.
Which one?
The one with Naya and I forget who the killer was.
Oh,
Um,
you mean the yeah, that's like a I see that's more of a generic sound bug. If there are like multiple sounds and one is significantly louder than the other, the
mhm.
quieter one will not play at all. I think at this point it's fixed, but that has been in the game for a long time.
Yeah, but my point is like once everyone was like made aware, more aware of that bug, I started seeing flashbangs in like every single match. For it's I kind of still do if I'm honest with you.
Yeah. I mean it's
Um,
like as I said, like I did not see a single person talk about Blight on social media,
mhm.
which had the exact same issue as Trickster, right? Like I don't know. Just there was no conversation about it. There was one clip, but like obviously you don't want this to be like on the big screen. Like there's no advantage to that. But
Mhm.
like yeah, it's just yeah. These things can like exponentially or like oh do you remember the Merciless Storm where like it would make the gen go zero? It's like I played against Baba players who had that perk. And like you had to like intentionally fail, otherwise that thing would go back to zero. I was like, bro, there were like Babas out there playing Merciless Storm. No shame at all. Actually insane.
But like I think it brings into question though for because I think the flashbang bug is a little different because it wasn't like purposefully shown. It was just kind of just happened to happen. Um, but it's like that influences things that the community ends up doing, whether it's for malicious reasons or just because I heard this thing is bugged, I'm going to try it, or
Yeah.
things like when Boil Over got buffed and people were making videos about old RPD library with exponential and Boil. God, I'm glad we don't have that anymore. But the question is like for a malicious playstyle or like using a bug or like making a video on something that is very clearly not. I mean, you could argue if the boil over thing was healthy or not. I'm gonna just stand on my stance and say it wasn't. But like the merciless storm thing, it's like these things that I would say are not like very good for the game. Should content creators be showing these things off just to hope they get addressed at some point, or should we kind of just like be quiet about it and just let it kind of happen naturally so it then gets fixed like in a small amount of time or in a short or in a longer amount of time. You get what I'm saying?
Uh, um yeah, it's a good topic. Like, I mean, if you I think it's like your I would almost say that right to like show problems with the game.
Mm-hmm.
Like in what form, whatever. For example, like the reason why I made like the night video where I played for an hour, that's like context that always everyone
Yeah.
ignores.
Mm-hmm.
What happened that day is like I played a game where a night player held like a pretty bad 3 gen for 30 minutes against a solo queue. It was the most miserable thing I've ever played against. And like at that point, I was like, okay, this is garbage. So now we're gonna go to an actual 3 gen and we're just gonna sit on it
Mm-hmm.
and we're gonna show how stupid this is because it's unbreakable and this is way too strong. Which is like, I don't know. I think that is kind of your I think that's okay. Like showing problems in the game is part of the thing. Like I think that's okay.
Yeah, I think a more recent example, and I'm friends with her, so I hope she doesn't mind that I shout her out a little bit. Carnivorous did a video about 3 or 4 months ago about the slugging issue, quote unquote issue,
Yeah.
um, where she brought a bunch of content creators. I was one of them. Shout out to myself. Where we all played 10 matches of no slugging and then 10 matches of only slugging, to
Yeah.
see what the stats were and the results. And while some people have criticized the way she did the data collection and the results, a lot of people came to the understanding that because of that, slugging was seen as, from our testing, at least a little bit better than hooking at the time.
Yeah.
And as a result, there's been a lot of people complaining that ever since that video came out, slugging has increased. And it's made the game more
Yeah.
miserable. And nothing has been done yet. Hopefully, something will be soon. But again, like it does bring into question, like, should we be showing these kinds of problems or should we just let them naturally happen? Because, like,
Sure. I mean, I think everyone should ask the question to themselves. Like, I think like whatever answer you come up with, I think they're like both, there are valid points for both.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I personally,
Because the argument I often get against it is that we shouldn't show it because if we show it, it's not a problem until we show it and it becomes a problem. And my
yeah,
argument,
that's the question. I
yeah,
mean, okay, like if that's actually the case, but I don't know. Is that actually true though? I think slugging was already big
mm-hmm,
before Carnivorous did her experiment. So like one thing that I would like to point out when it comes to slugging, I think the one that really opened up the conversation was probably Michael Jackson, who won like 500 games in a row, and Billy
mm-hmm.
slugging with like two pucks and nothing else. I was like only slugging. I was like, that's like unheard of because the only thing he had was Deerstalker and Spice of the Shadows.
Mm-hmm.
If you look at those pucks, you're probably like, okay, that is not that strong. So like, how in the world do you win 500 games if he actually restricted himself with slugging? That's like the question. Did he restrict himself or did he open himself up? Because like, yeah, that's like, I don't know, that kind of like showed for a lot of people, okay, this is already strong. But like, I don't know. So is slugging, that's also another question. Like, should you slug? Is slugging okay to do? Because like, yeah, obviously it's kind of like part of the game, but it's
Mm-hmm.
so bad to play against. Like, surely that, yeah, it's just like obnoxious to actually go up against. So is it still morally okay? Like, I don't know. That's like,
Well, and again, like the thing with the slugging thing in particular is like, and this happened with the 3 gen meta as well, is the problem was there, right? Like people could have done this, but no one knew. Right. Well, okay, news is a strong word, but like no, people weren't doing it en masse because no one was like really aware of it yet. And my argument against it has always been like, if you have mold in your house in like a room that no one goes in or you don't use, and the mold is still there, even if you don't know it's there, right? And it's gonna eventually become a problem, but it's not one now. So the question becomes: do we acknowledge it's there and try to fix it now, or do we wait until it is actually an issue? And I think that's where some people kind of get frustrated with content creators and stuff like that. It's like the 3 gen meta, for example, or I'm gonna use this word that the Dead by Daylight I can talk. The Dead by Daylight community hates, which is chess.
yeah.
uh, the chess merchant situation, going back to her, uh, the argument could be made that the 3 genning skull merchant thing might not have become as big of a problem if the videos and stuff weren't made on it. No hate, by the way, to you, because I know you
Yeah.
made one. But
I mean, yeah, I honestly, I don't care about that, to
yeah.
be perfectly honest. Because I had that argument with myself in my mind,
Hmm.
and I'm like done with it because I've like closed it for me because I know my own answer. But like at the same time, it's like it's okay for others to have other answers. Don't get me wrong.
Right.
Like, but like, yeah, it's like you cannot say much anymore if there's any problem in the game. You can just like shut everything down with that argument. Like, I
Hmm.
don't know, like come to, yeah, I don't know. Like I think the problem already exists. The problem is big, and I think the cause of that problem is the fact that it exists. It's like, yeah, that's how I
Right,
see it.
right, and I think the argument often is just like, oh well, you're giving the knowledge and enabling, and I don't fully agree with it either. It's like, again, once people figured it out, it would have become an issue anyways. Why not just kind of expedite the process,
Yeah,
as pragmatic as that sounds? But
I still remember the first time I've ever played against the Scourge when we held a 3 gen. I think I don't know if that was the PDB or slowly after. That was with I was actually in a format. I was classed.
hmm.
I was with Odds and one more person, and we are playing on Temple of Purgation. We play against the Sky Merchant. We held a 3 gen. I think it was like 45 minutes. I think that was shortly. I think it was shortly after the PDB. I mean, it's like, do you realize? I'm not gonna lie. Like the Sky Merchant 3 gen thing, that didn't take a genius to figure out.
No.
Because the only thing that Sky Merchant is good at is like holding an area. Well, guess what? Just like hold an area. That's what you're strong at. So
I
I
mean,
don't know. This is just like playing into your strength. I don't think there's any. It's not even malicious at that point. I don't know.
yeah. I'm not the smartest person in the world, and I found out that Knight could do it very well before anyone else did any content about it. So it's not,
Mm,
again, it doesn't take it doesn't take too much. Um,
yeah. I think it's a little bit like the meta. I
mhm.
mean, like you're gonna accelerate it if you bring publicity to it, but like you're also gonna accelerate the fixing of it.
Yeah, if it needs to be fixed, I think finesse dramaturgy,
Yeah,
I think is actually fine. I know a lot of some people have a problem with it. I think it's okay. Um,
yeah,
I'd rather deal with that than most of the other metas we had. Uh, but this also comes into play with like fixes that do end up happening. I'm going to name drop someone that you just name dropped, which is Otz,
yeah.
who has gotten a lot of, what's the word I'm looking for? Criticism for, quote, forcing the devs to do things, which I will never understand why people think this is how this works, because it's not. But the most recent thing was shoulder the burden, which I don't want to talk about balance on it, but because we'd be here for like an hour just talking about that alone. But Otz had an idea for a mechanic, and that's the key word here, a mechanic that was very, very similar to what Shoulder the Burden ended up being. This video came out, I want to say like 6 or 8 months ago, and a lot of people
Yeah.
kind of blamed him for the perk existing.
Yeah, I can give some context to that.
Mm-hmm.
So by the time that video came out, like 1 month before the PDB,
Mm-hmm.
and by that point, I have as a consultant, I've already tested Shoulder the Burden, named Shoulder the Burden with the mechanic that it already does. So it's like this is sometimes I don't know, like Ots is a genius guy. He could be an incredible game designer, honestly.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like the tunneling problem in Dead by Daylight is a pretty obvious one.
Right.
And I'll not lie, I think the idea that he had of transferring a hook stage is honestly not that crazy unique.
No,
And
I
yeah,
think
someone on the designer team also had the same idea because like it's a pretty obvious one. Like sure, like to alleviate tunneling a little bit, you transfer a hook stage. And I think a lot of people have also asked for that beforehand.
yeah, they have.
But yeah, a lot of others thought that Arts is the CEO of designing now, and he designed it. But no, that is not the case.
Well, yeah, because I think people forget how long some of these things take to actually make.
Yeah,
Because it's not like they just sit there and like make it in a day, you know. So they watch a video and are like, "Oh, that's a good idea. Let's put it in tomorrow." Like,
I mean, I can give some light on that actually. So
mhm,
like generally, like the first part is obviously like you have your it's like first obviously like the designers internally argue what parks do they want and what designs do they want, and then also the consultants also get a little bit of a look and they say okay, this is good, maybe this one isn't. And like sometimes we that also leads to changes, but that's like so far out already, right? Like that's like 3-4 months out, and at some point they're like they designed the logos and they designed the names and all the things, and that's like a few months before the chapter even releases, right? At that point, it's like everything is locked in already. So you
mhm.
can't really change anything. I mean, sure, like you can change things. For example, oh, what was that? Wicked, right?
Yeah,
Wicked actually got
yeah,
changed
hmm
from the PTB to the live game, if I'm not mistaken.
yeah. It was some
I think it
mangled
did.
thing before.
Yeah. So Wicked actually the idea to change Wicked was like that was already decided before the PDB. I
hmm
think that Wicked is going to change. That was like 1 month out or something. Like it was already decided that the PDB version of Wicked is not going to make it to the game. But like it's just like there's such a delay on that to make like new things and like get everything coded in that yeah, like on the PDB it was still the outdated version.
Um, this is a really off topic a little bit, but kind of similar to that. And if you can't say anything, just let me know. But the most recent PTB, which was the Houndmaster one, um,
Yeah.
do you have any insight on why they changed Chucky after the PTB so drastically? If you can't
You
say
mean
anything,
wait. Oh,
so go ahead.
you mean why the Chucky changes were not on the PDB?
Yes.
That's just like
Okay.
that's just
Okay.
that's a good question, but it's like it's just about a matter of of like how much time do you have and what can you do to that time. Like that
Yeah.
was just not possible because like the schedule was too tight. I mean,
Yeah.
it's like lessons have been learned from that.
Hmm.
But yeah, like you don't have PDBs that often in DBD either.
Yeah.
Like when was the last PDB? Like in probably start of December,
Yeah,
right?
started December right before Handmaster. Yeah, we haven't had
So like
a
the
mid chapter or
start of
anything.
December, the next PDB is going to be March.
Hmm.
So that's like I don't know what 4 months between PDBs.
Yeah.
So like sometimes it's not possible, sadly, but yeah,
Yeah.
maybe should have.
I was just curious because I know a lot of people were very upset with that change, and I have a feel
Yeah,
part of it I feel was just because it was on a random hotfix. um,
yeah, yeah. It's just about like sometimes it's just about producing and
mhm.
like doing things and like trying to make the game as good as possible.
Yeah,
And like
that
because like there are only so many hours and like yeah, life balancing is generally not the hottest topic, and
mhm.
like not the most I don't know. Not it doesn't get the most resources. And you need to see what you can do with the resources you have.
Right, and like and again, I know it was really off topic. And that was always my assumption was just they just didn't have time. That was always that's what I always thought it was. Whether or not they should have let it go through or not is a whole other discussion. But uh, similar. But my point with that is like a lot of these things do take some time to do, and I just think people just forget that. I mean, like, what was another one that happened? Was Scavenger? I remember a bunch of people were saying it was going to be OP, and then it
Yeah,
got
I
nerfed
mean,
into a state where it's basically a useless perk now. Okay,
to be
there's going to
fair,
be
I think there's so many
someone.
examples.
There's going to be
There's so many
someone.
examples of that, by the way,
Hmm.
where the community have collectively decided that something is OP, and then you never saw it ever again. Like there's so many of the like. How often do you see Quick Amber now? Do you remember when Quick Amber
Oh
got
my
reworked? And it's like
gosh.
everyone's gonna be like, "Oh my god, 5% on every asset to survivor and ours? Nah, not on my Depredators. This
Or
is way too strong." And like at this point, it's like, bro, I've seen that two times maybe since it got changed.
yeah, and then
And like Wicked was another one where I thought when I saw that design, I thought that is gonna be OP, to be honest. Like I thought at first Wicked is gonna be way too strong because I mean it's kind of like it can force problematic situations where you bring a map of thing, you go into the basement, you can unlock yourself, then you have like a million anti-tank box. Kind of feels bad, but it kind of I think it worked out to be honest. I think Wicked kind of
I love
is an
Wicked.
okay perk.
I love
Yeah,
Wicked. I think
yeah.
Wicked's
I
a
thought
good one.
yeah, I was definitely wrong on that.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like it's not possible to always be right, right? Like
Yeah.
I don't know.
I mean, the opposite has happened too. Chat kind of mentioned it, and I bring this up all the time. MFT is a very good example of this. There were some creators and some people saying like, "Oh, this is going to be OP and it's going to break the game." But if you look back to like that PTB and like footage, because I've looked at videos from that PTB, a lot of people thought it was going to be fine, and it
Wait,
wasn't
which one?
made for this.
Yeah,
Yeah.
very very devious. Yeah, to be honest.
And
hard
then
to hard to understand the impact that park would have had. Yes,
yeah.
it's also so hard to even see it do anything. But like if you
Mhm.
if you play it a lot, then you kind of catch on how stupid that park is. Yeah,
Yeah, and then I mean we had the recent thing happen with Resurgence, and I'm trying to think of another one that's Babysitter. I think is one I was scared of, and I never see it.
yeah,
I'm still scared of
Kind
that perk. It's actually
yeah.
good. Please, don't run it, but please run it.
No, that park is actually insanely good. To be
Oh,
honest,
I,
that could be one of the most underrated parks in DBD.
I,
Honestly, the thing is though that teamwork parks generally just
mhm.
don't work that well in solo queue. If you give like random mech, if you give random mech babysitter, she's gonna camp a pallet and die.
Right.
So it's like, yeah,
Yeah, I think another one I bring up, one that I think has been secretly good for years, but no one uses except for a certain specific group of people, is Breakdown. uh, I I shudder the day that people realize that perk is good and it starts to become meta. The game will become absolutely miserable if Breakdown is meta.
yeah. I say kind of like exploiting like flaws in the map design almost because
Hmm.
like 3 minutes of no hook which means like if you use that correctly, then you can't really be hooked. And yeah, that feels incredibly bad.
Yeah,
All over vibes.
I think it's kind of the similar thing with Babysitter, where I think the feedback just isn't there, and that's why people don't use it. Because if you use it and you still get
Yeah,
hooked anyways, you feel like, oh, it didn't do anything, even though you wasted like 10 seconds extra,
yeah.
which matters a lot. But like I think like as far as creators like suggesting changes and those changes that happen to be the ones that get made, I don't see a problem with that necessarily, and I don't think anyone should be outright blamed, quote unquote, for
I mean,
things that get
I
added or
mean,
changes that do happen, you know?
I have no problem with that. Like, I speak my mind. I mean, it would be a problem if I like somehow had like other intentions and like I don't know, like but it's like balance is always so relative in DVD. And it's like this.
Hmm.
I'll be honest. I don't think that's like ever even a chance for DBD to be quote unquote balanced.
Hmm.
It's like always a matter of compromise, and like someone will always be upset for most
Well,
do.
I mean,
And that's honestly kind of okay too.
hmm.
Which like, yeah, I mean, it's like everyone voices their opinion. If you're a content creator, if you're like the normal person on Twitter, it's like everyone is passionate about DVD. Everyone has their opinions, the directions they want to get the game to go. And if the game doesn't go that direction, then they're probably gonna be mad. But like being like a little bit self-aware of how it is and like that everyone kind of wants this,
Hmm.
um, I think it's kind of important.
I mean, I think there's a line, obviously. It's a PvP game. If one side's succeeding, the other side is failing most of the time. I know there's exceptions to that, but, you know, if one side's succeeding, the other side's failing. DBD is just unique in the sense that one side is one person and the other is four.
Yeah,
And it's something
true.
that no other like PvP game has to really deal with. Uh, I'll bring up like Marvel Rivals, right? Like if something's OP in Marvel Rivals, both sides can just use it at the same time. While it's still a problem, it's not like
Yeah,
an
yeah.
issue, quote unquote, you know?
Yeah, being asymmetrical makes it infinitely harder to balance things because like you don't have the imbalance on both sides. It's like if it's a symmetrical game, like I don't know, like you can. It's kind of impossible to imbalance it because like you have the imbalances on both sides.
Right. And I I think one an example I bring. Did you play? Have you played Rainbow Six Siege before?
I followed it a bit, but I've not played it. No.
So Rainbow Six Siege, similar to like Valorant, you know it's you're on defense and attack, and you switch sides. So
Yeah.
like so like even if like let's say defense is stronger, technically speaking, you're going to go on that side at some point. So
Yeah.
like it balances itself out in a sense. Um,
Yeah.
and even again, if something is imbalanced, the other side does have a chance to use that strategy or that character, you know, in their own
Yeah.
sense. And it,
I played a lot of Counter Strike, which is like a very similar
mhm.
dynamic where it's also like some of the maps are like very one sided, but yeah.
Yeah, and Dead by Daylight also has the problem of, and we can argue if it's competitive or party game or whatever. I don't even know what those two words mean anymore. But it also has the problem I feel with you never know what you're going into most of the time, uh, and that kind of limits. It's like okay, so let's say boil over is a problem, right? Let's say like it was, or you know what? I'll bring up a more recent meta, the hex meta when Thrill the Hunt became meta for 2 weeks. Uh,
Yeah.
you could bring a build that counters it, but the thing is, people didn't want to do that because if they didn't go into a hex build, they would have pretty much had a dead build. And I'm not suggesting that the other side should know exactly what the other side has, but I do think that also leads to an issue with how to balance the game. In well, quote unquote, balance the game in a lot of situations is that the other side can bring so many different things that cannot be accounted for. Um, and the Dead by Daylight community, you can correct me if I'm wrong. I feel like has a very big problem of like bringing things to counter the current meta for some reason. Maybe that's just a me thing I've noticed a lot.
Uh, Maybe a little bit.
Well, because like with the hex meta for me, it's like okay, well, or the slugging meta, it's like okay, well, people should bring anti-slug stuff, okay, and then we take the anti-slug stuff, and then the killers stop slugging, so now the killers can tunnel more because there's less anti-tunnel. Well, then the survivors start bringing anti-tunnel, and I feel like that's how the meta should go. But in Dead by Daylight, it seems like something becomes a problem, it gets fixed or adjusted by the devs in some way, the problem goes away, and then we just go back to like the quote normal meta that it was before. Um, I feel like we don't really have like fluctuations in meta because of that. If that makes any sense.
Yeah, not that much. I mean, generally, yeah. That's like also the Dabada has not doesn't change that often.
Mm-mm. Which is why I'm really excited for the next few months. I know some
Yeah.
people are complaining, but like I'm really excited for the next few months. But moving on a bit, and this kind of goes into the blame side of it. But when something like that happens, um, so like the shoulder the burden thing or the slugging thing or all of this stuff, I know a lot of the blame tends to go to the creators that showed it or the balancing team or whatever. But I think a lot of it is just like systemic issues with the game, like at its core. And I don't know. Do you think the blame gets like put too much on one side or the other for for a lot of this stuff?
Mm, I mean, Dabada has a strong content presence. And I think
Mm-hmm.
that also makes Dabada what it is.
Mm-hmm.
There's a large amount of content around the game. I wouldn't. I don't. I wouldn't really put blame on anyone. Honestly, I don't know. I think like natural progression of like online games. Like sometimes like metas just form. I think it's natural. And like people also naturally look up what might be the strongest build and how do I get an advantage and what is
Mm-hmm.
the best character. I think it's just normal in online games, honestly.
Yeah, I played. I played on Windows Store. You can laugh at me later because no one knows that exists. Uh,
Yeah.
I played on Windows Store for about 2 or 3 years before cross progression happened.
Yeah.
But before cross progression was coming, I got a Steam account or the version of the game on Steam, and I was like, you know what? I'll play against new players for a little bit, not maliciously. I had a goal where it was like I'll only two hook everybody. I won't bring perks,
Yeah.
all this stuff, and it was really funny to see like people with like 10 hours bringing the most meta thing they still could.
Mm,
Like I saw constant like sprint burst deja vu. I'm trying to think of. I saw a bunch of people running Lyth on like Jake, so like they went ahead and bought Fong and still got Lyth
yeah.
on her. Um, it was very interesting to see that even like these quote newer players were still figuring out what the meta was, and it's interesting to think if it really did just come down to them quote figuring it out on their own, or if they watched a video, or if they looked it up beforehand to know like where to properly like level up and spend their blood points on certain perks.
I wouldn't be surprised. Like it's like I mean it's like yeah. There's a lot of perks in DBD. Like kind of you can shortcut so much of the learning process just by learning from others who have already like figured it out. So
Mm-hmm.
makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, everyone should run Repressed Alliance.
Mm,
Do it now. It's yeah, it's just interesting because like I feel like other games do have this problem as well, but Dead by Daylight seems oddly unique in the content space where this game like again other games are content creator heavy, but this game in particular I've noticed is extremely content creator heavy as far as like how things happen, why things happen, um,
yeah.
certain like influential ideas, like the shoulder the burden thing or the slugging thing and things like that. And I really like. I would love to understand why this game in particular is that way. Um, and like,
I mean I think it has a lot of views if you compare the player base to how many people view the Badella content. It's just pretty good. Why is that Badella good for content? That's a good question. I mean,
There's a lot of reasons for that. I can think of a
yeah, I think
couple.
I think one of them is because experience kind of wins
Hmm.
in this game, and like, yeah, it's kind of fun to watch experienced players, quote unquote, do it better.
Hmm. Well, I also think on like the streaming side of it, I think it's also because on both sides, like there's moments of downtime that usually aren't there in a lot of other games. That gives you opportunity to like engage with your chat and things like that. I know that seems like a small thing, but there's plenty of games that are just hard to stream.
Yeah,
Like, I mean, no hate to Marvel Rivals creators, but there is so much going on in that game at any given time that it is very hard to like engage with your chat.
yeah,
And then as far as like on the YouTube side of things, I mean, there's 200 and something perks. There's so many combinations on top of like 40 killers, different maps you can bring, different strategies, all the add-ons um, that like allows for like differing builds. As much as I feel like we don't see enough differing builds from content creation until like something becomes the new flavor of the month, but it does happen, right? Like I mean, I saw a video the other day about Scavenger, which was interesting to see because like I haven't heard anyone talk about this perk and since it was released like 3 years ago. Um, and like again, it's just odd that the Dead by Daylight has such this massive because there's a statistic that like only 5% of a player base for any game like actually engages with the game outside of it.
yeah.
And I feel like Dead by Daylight, it's a much higher number. I would argue, like, I would say at least half the player base engages with the game outside of the game.
Hmm. I think there are also a lot of people who don't play the game and still watch content of it.
Yeah, that too. That's for sure. You know how many comments I get? I don't even play this game anymore, but I still watch you.
Yeah.
It's yeah. I don't know. It's also a very simple game to understand. And there's no hate to like the gameplay or anyone who's good at it, but I mean, at the end of the day, it's run away from killer or chase survivor. Like
Yeah.
there's nuances, but like you don't have to know like cooldown timings or like specific strategies being utilized. You can just kind of watch and just chill with it, you know.
Yeah, the premise is very simple, which also really helps. Yeah,
Mm-hmm. Which some would argue is also a detriment to the game over the years,
true,
um,
true.
because the premise has become so simple that it kind of leads to issues with complexity and of skill expression in the veteran years of the game. Um, but yeah, like I think that also comes into play with the whole content creator thing in the sense that the game is so content creator heavy. I feel like unlike a lot of other games, it's a lot more influential. If that makes any sense, and I have nothing to back that up. That is literally me like anecdotally saying that, but I don't know. Do you feel that way a little bit?
Maybe. Uh, yeah. I think. Um,
I mean, I think, and I didn't put this question down, but I was gonna bring it up, which is tier lists are another thing with this, and
true.
what I mean by tier lists, or what I want to bring up with tier lists more so is this idea of, for lack of a better word, kind of the hive mind that ends up happening with a lot of opinions in Dead by Daylight,
Yeah.
where it's like this killer is bad, and even if they get buffed or something changes around them, or someone shows that they're not that bad, the general consensus doesn't tend to change for a long time. Uh,
I mean, it's kind of funny when it comes to tier lists. Like the way Western tier lists. Okay, I always said Western tier lists are done within our circle of influence is like heavily influenced by odds, and that's just how
mm-hmm,
he made his tiers, and that's like the base format that everyone follows.
mm-hmm,
It's like pretty funny because like someone sent me a Japanese one like those a few months ago,
mm-hmm.
and that was vastly different, completely different
Oh yeah,
to our tier list.
yeah.
And like if you read the comments, they're like, "Oh my god, this person is so wrong." It's like no way, because like they don't understand that the entire premise is different, and like they're so
Well,
influenced by the way we do it
mm-hmm.
that they don't see any other way.
Yeah. Well, I always bring this criticism up to tier lists a lot of the times. A lot of people don't give context to their tier lists.
Yeah.
They don't give like qualifiers. Like you'll look at a tier list and you'll be like, oh, this doesn't make any sense, and then you'll realize it's because they took add-ons into account, or they took maps into account, or they took like perks into account, or they were doing it for I don't know, the it's a person who's only had 10 hours in the game, right? Like a lot of the context in like qualifiers are just missing. Uh,
Yeah.
and I say this all the time. I'm convinced the reason most people don't take add-ons into account is just because of Myers. That's the only reason. Uh,
Yeah, maybe.
but it also muddies the water a little bit because like, how do we only take the best add-ons into account? Do we average it out? And then it's like, are we talking in the 1v1, the 4v1? Are we talking like in a comp scene, in the normal scene? Because I hate using the word pub. I hate using
Yeah.
that word so much. Because like in the Japanese one you brought up, on theirs, Xenomorph is like the worst killer in the game to them, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, it was Chucky actually.
Was it Chucky? It was either Chucky or
Yeah.
Xenomorph. Regardless, but these are two killers. Like Xenomorph is usually mid-ish on our
Yeah.
ends, and Chucky was, at least at the time, considered like top 10 in the game.
I mean,
Um,
I already talked to, so I had like context because I did like an East vs West showcase
mhm.
some time ago. I already had context, and back then I already like asked a little bit about their opinions, and they already said like Chucky, like back then, that was before the nerf, they thought Chucky was a low tier killer. Meanwhile, in the we in our sphere of influence, we were like, yeah, Chucky's. I think a lot of people were like comparing Chucky to Spirit at that time. So and they
Yes.
thought it's a logical. So yeah, I mean, it went very far apart.
Yeah, and the argument has also been made with like tier lists and things like that if it influences how the devs tend to balance. And I personally think, and again, I don't have insider info, so I could be wrong, but the behavior has been criticized before for doing a lot of statistical balance, right? This killer has
Yeah,
too high of a win rate. This kill rate, not win rate. This killer has too high of a play rate, too low of a play rate, etc. And that's
which is you know what's funny about that though?
mhm.
It's like the players are kind of like arguing against themselves. But I think they don't quite understand that. Because like what the in the opposition to that is like looking at numbers. Okay, numbers never tell the whole story, right?
No.
But like if you were to actually only look at community opinion, you would almost exclusively balance the game for the high level players, which is
Yeah.
pretty funny because like the community opinion is heavily influenced by, as like the tier list also is, by like people who have a lot of hours, and the average player is like 200 maybe, which is kind of, yeah, interesting.
Don't get me started on the 200 hours isn't enough argument. um, but yeah, and I think like I've always brought it up before. It's like people always make the argument like, should we balance around the high end? Should we balance around the low end? And I think the obvious answer is just balance around the average. And I know it's hard to like
Uh,
quantify, but I
I feel
mean,
like
there's situations where you should balance for the high end. Like it's a give and take for all of it.
true. Like for like to give an example, like there are always going to be outliers
Mm,
that make it extremely hard. For example, like someone like Nurse, it's like
mhm,
such an outlier on the high level that you should probably like maybe look towards that and
mhm.
like balance it for the high level. But like generally it's always a balancing act, and you kind of need to please everyone
Mhm.
at the same time, which is close to impossible.
I wouldn't even say close. I would just say it is impossible.
Yeah, it is impossible.
Um, but it also brings into question with like certain killers and things like, and even perks to a degree. But like at the moment, Chucky I think is a good example, right? A lot of people are saying he's very bad right now, but meanwhile, there's a lot of Chucky, or not a lot, but there's some Chucky players who are making him work decently well at the moment. And my fear is if they do buff him, we're just going to become monsters again. So
Well,
like
I mean,
there's also that, but it's like I also do want him to be good for the average player.
I think a lot of the balancing in DBD like tends to go too far in that direction.
Mhm.
Like there are changes that are good. But like oftentimes what I see is like you see problem and you try to correct for problem, and then like there are it's very often that the correction is the overcorrection,
Mhm.
which is always a bit unfortunate because it oftentimes takes a long time to like correct that overcorrection, because like there might not be resources available and like blah blah blah. I don't know that either, but yeah, sometimes unfortunate things happen. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think kind of the opposite situation with this was like the Huntress change that happened. God, I can't remember time. It was like
Yeah.
8 months ago. Like that was a highly contentious change.
Yeah. It
Because
was polarizing.
the argument was like Huntress wasn't bad, she didn't need it, right? Um,
Uh, to be honest, I still stand. Dude, I was actually the one that suggested Babushka to go halfway biscuit.
mhm,
I was actually the one to suggest that change.
mhm,
I still think I still stand by that opinion, but that's like that might be high level bias. But like Huntress chase without Babushka at that time was horrendously bad.
mhm,
I was like, honestly, like the winding up was just too punishing, and you needed Babushka to play so many loops. And yeah, like the at that time we wanted to get rid of the add-on dependencies,
mhm.
and like because those are the easiest changes to make, where like almost nobody complains. If a killer runs like one add-on 24/7 and you feel like you need this one add-on, rather than just like put it halfway biscuit, and
I
then like maybe there's more variety, so the survivors are going to be happy about that, and the players of that killer get a second add-on slot. But I think the 7 hatchets had more downside than positives. I think because like at that point the hatchet management barely mattered on survivor side. It doesn't matter if you dodge. There's 7 anyway. Like
mhm,
who the fuck cares? Like reload was also made faster. Like the thought behind the change was that lockers are inconsistent on the maps, which is true. There are maps that have very bad locker placement. But I think the downs, like the negative you took for that change, was too much, and you could maybe look into reverting that. I was saying it's always hard to to convince people to like backtrack that change. I think.
yeah. Sorry, I thought my screen went off because of the black on the video. Um, uh,
Sorry, that was a lot of ranting, but
yeah.
like that was one of the first things I did when I became a consultant. Actually, um, I still remember that. It's like what was it? Baba Chili halfway base kit, Babushka halfway base
Thank you for
kit.
that one, by the way. The Bubba Chili. Oh,
Um, yeah, still not perfect. I feel like the speed curve is a bit slow. But
yeah.
like, it's like the thing about if there's one thing about development in DBD is it takes 10 billion years. It just takes so long for things to happen. It's like oftentimes there's a reaction, but holy shit, it takes so long.
Yeah, and to the devs' credit though, it's I know some people hate it when people say this. It's better than it was.
Yeah.
Uh,
No, one thing I say this pretty often now, but like I love saying this. So a lot of the people on the back end, obviously the players will not notice this because you don't announce these things.
mhm,
But like a lot of the developers and like the position from the developers have changed. And with those changes in leadership and like design and the people who design, like the mentality has completely shifted. As like there were like when the consultant program was public, there were like some older consultants who said, okay, who cares, they don't listen to us anyway. And they were not wrong, because like I think there were different people at that time who were like designing stuff, and there were different people who were leading the consultant program.
mhm.
And yeah, I think that has drastically changed by now, and yeah, it's pretty decent.
Yeah, and again, it's because I mean MFT was meta for 6 months. It was quote a problem. That's a
Yeah.
different topic, but
That
um,
took so long. Like I swear, like they waited for the community to like eat itself.
yeah.
Like they waited for the community to like completely go at each other's throat, and like that's like so unfortunate, right? Because like, oh my god, just do that 4 months earlier, and it's like so many people don't have to lose their hair and don't have to ball to death. It's like, yeah.
I was maining clown at the time, so like I didn't even notice. So
I literally stopped playing Huntress around that time.
I
I was like halfway maining Huntress up until MFT, and I never got back into it. Actually, it
I
was It's so annoying.
I remember I tried playing Dredge during MFT meta, and I don't rage quit. I don't get very mad in this game, but I legitimately almost uninstalled the
Yeah,
game.
I think that was what that was. I think that's. I mean, I don't know that for a fact, but this me kind of like doing an educated guess. It's like that's because MFT is so hard, and you need a lot of experience to understand
Hmm.
how problematic that bug is on the high level. Because like for the average Joe, MFT is like it's okay. Like I don't know
Right.
if like the average 200-hour survivor has MFT on, who cares? But if you chase someone with 3,000 hours and the MFT on, and they know how to path and they know the map perfectly, and you play on one killer, like, oh my god, you just never want to play the game ever again. I was like, making people understand that is just difficult.
Yeah. But Hen's Dark Theory was fine.
Yeah.
God, I hate that.
Yes.
I hate that argument so much. Um, but no, for real though, the devs have been a lot better about addressing things faster. I mean, we don't get PTBs often enough. I mean, I think for the most part, we're just kind of like in a lull because of Christmas right now. I feel,
Yeah.
um, because we do get them about every month and a half. There's usually a mid chapter PTB.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, like this is always the big break, and now it has been delayed for 3 more weeks.
Hmm.
It's like DBD is kind of like on a downturn now because like the last chapter is like very buggy at the very least, and yeah, so little bit of an awkward spot. Like I don't know. I'm also like I don't know,
Yeah,
waiting for the new content, but that's so far away. So
yeah. And I'm very curious what's going to happen to the community a little bit over the next few months because I said my fear with what they're doing now. I think got like 2,000 likes on Twitter, which is weird. Where I was like,
yeah,
I don't know, I don't know how the community is going to react to like a 3 month break of like no content for a health update. And I guess
yeah.
I'm gonna we're gonna figure that out on our own, won't we?
I mean, it's only 3 weeks, so I think 3 months would be terrible, to be perfectly
Yeah.
honest. Because like, but like the thing that is pretty good, is that you know for a fact on the summer's FNF, so the hype is going to be there. So
Yeah.
whatever happens now, that's probably the best moment to take a breather that they could possibly do.
Hmm.
But like at the same time, I would just love for there to be a bit of a higher priority on bug fixing and like not necessarily take breaks and just like get I don't know, like get the shit together on the regular.
Hmm.
Yeah.
I think another thing with it is like because I get it, some of this stuff does take time. I understand, and you want to make sure it's correctly done. Because you don't want to cause another problem by fixing something. Like MFT, I think, for example, a lot of us were like, "Oh, this is the obvious fix," right? And I think sometimes like we think that these obvious. I think like the Freddy rework is a good example of this, where I mean I can probably count at least 40 different Freddy reworks I've seen over the years, and
Yeah.
none of them were anything like what we got. And I'm gonna give it to the devs. I think they cooked with it. Like
I think
it is.
honestly the desk I'll
But
be honest, I think the designers have been on a fat roll. So
mhm.
Houndmaster is tragic, but I don't think that's necessarily on the designers, to be honest. Houndmasters is like, I don't know, that was like part a balancing nightmare and part like just way too buggy.
Yeah,
But like core concept, I was honestly a fan. Like they had a lot of they have a role going right now.
yeah, and some of the decisions, like again, like the Skull Merchant changes, and depending on who you ask, the Chucky changes. Um, some people I feel are getting negativity bias towards that because I know Pinhead and Plague Mains are very scared right now.
I
And
think I think I don't think these changes are happening anymore, if I'm not mistaken.
at all, I thought they just pushed them back.
Did I push them back?
Yeah,
I
I
might
thought,
have.
I
Might
thought,
have.
yeah, I thought they just said they got pushed back. It's actually a good
So
question. No one's really talking about it. I never really thought about that. Huh.
yeah, it's a little bit sad to see. It's like, oh my god, they're coming from mine main next. I
Well,
mean, it's like to be honest, like if I was a pinhead enjoyer, I would probably be scared because like the one thing that that if I was a designer and I'm like, okay, well, what is really annoying about Pinhead? This entire infinite chain hunt thing is holy shit, that makes people rage quit left and right.
What's
I can
annoying
kind of
about
understand.
Pinhead? All of him.
Yeah, I don't know, but like, yeah,
Well, my argument with it though is like it's just the negativity bias because like we're focusing on Chucky and Skull Merchant, and it's like, yeah, what about Bubba, Doctor Clown, Huntress, Vecna, Dracula? Okay, Dracula's a it depends on who
I
you
think this
ask.
is, I think it's human nature.
Yeah, well, it's a survival instinct. We remember the negative, so we don't do it
Yeah,
again. But it's just weird to me that like people are kind of like scared of their killer being on the list. And I'm just like, I'm not scared, really. My main got kind of butchered a little bit, and I wasn't even scared. Like, I kind of think he deserved it a little bit, if I'm honest. Uh,
Mm,
I'm there's someone in the Chucky community who's very mad at me for saying that. But it's just weird. That's just where we immediately go to, where it's gonna be bad. When I feel like behavior has been showing, at least for the most part, that they understand the assignment. There's a couple slip ups here and there, but like for the most part,
yeah,
they've been doing a very, very good job. And it's not me trying to
yeah. I feel like
shill, but
you could definitely make a case for like I don't know, if you listen too much to the complaints of survivors, I think that might lead to problems.
mhm.
But
Well, I
yeah,
I know there's a lot of people who complain often that the devs don't listen to the community enough, and I especially recently I just can't agree with that. If anything, I've been saying recently I think they're listening to the community too much.
I mean, it's like the community is not on the same page, but I
Hmm.
don't think they're self-aware, to be honest.
Yeah, I again, not gonna point anyone out, but we often argue about a lot of things. I would say most things we argue about. Um, Even though I don't think there should be like, should there really be an argument against survivors hiding for an hour when it's just two of them left? Uh, but
Yeah,
apparently there is. So, uh, but it's just again like I feel like the devs have been doing a good job at listening to the community. And the decisions they make from listening to them is a different topic, but like I think they've been showing they've been listening, especially with again the most recent video and the patch that's coming soon. We don't know all the details yet, at least specifics, but again, like it's just a good thing at what they're doing. But I do kind of wish the devs would sometimes pull a little back and be like, outright come out and say, no, we think this is better for the game on some changes they do. Um,
yeah. I mean, it's like I don't know, like positioning yourself is oftentimes just a lose. To be
mhm.
honest, like people will be mad at you for it, but yeah, sure. I mean, there are great changes. The one thing yeah, the map offering thing could have happened 3 years ago. That is, I'm still like, oh my god, but I'm still happy that it's happening now. I was like, I'm still mad that haven't happened like a long time ago.
I mean, there's a lot of people arguing that it was FNAF that did it. It was Marvel Rivals that did it. It was the community finally boiling over that did it. Like, honestly, I mean, I'm not there. I'm not a fly on the wall. I just think it was finally everything just finally the straw broke. Right, the
Yeah,
camel's back is gone. I think is what happened, and uh, not to say that was the only reason. Like I'm again, like we can't blame the devs themselves. It's almost never like developers' fault. It's often like the leadership involved.
yeah,
Um,
no,
and
almost always.
yeah,
Mm.
and I think that it's finally gotten to a point, like you said earlier, from what you understand that the leadership has changed in a way where we're getting these changes that we kind of need.
Actually, have you seen the video?
Which one?
You saw the new face right on the video where they announced
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
the
yeah, yeah,
changes.
yeah.
That's like the overall boss now. That's
Oh,
the boss.
really? When did
Yeah,
that
that's the
happen?
boss. Um,
You don't have to give
oh,
it like
that's
a
pretty recent. That's
I
pretty recent
was gonna
actually.
say you don't have to give a
It's like
date
there
and
was
time, but
I don't like that position has been, if I'm not mistaken, that position has been created to actually get a boss because there was no like there were different departments in DBD,
Mm-hmm.
but there was no overall like number one. This guy is like the guy in
Oh,
control.
that
That was not a thing before.
that explains a lot.
Yeah.
uh,
So
wow, that
yeah,
explains a
I think
lot.
like if you have different opinions, especially with different departments, you can oftentimes like nullify each other, and like then nothing gets done. And that's
I
and like having one person that has the final say is always a
mhm.
good idea, I think.
Yeah, I mean, in my outside of content creation, I manage a retail store, and
Ooh.
that's a big thing. And I know like people are like, oh, it's just retail. No, 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 no. Having that
Yeah.
one person who makes an executive decision is
Yeah.
huge, even if
Yeah.
it's the wrong
It's
decision. Like, it's still huge that there's that one person to just be like, no,
yeah.
this is how we're doing it, or yes, this is how we're doing it, right?
Yeah. Having like 5 different departments who all have the same power level, like you oftentimes run into issues where it's like, yeah, like nothing gets done. But yeah, there's like I'm very excited about the future.
Mhm.
That is gonna be more hands-on and like a little bit faster. There are lots of ways to go, a long way to go with DBD, but I am very hopeful for where it's going.
Yeah, yeah. I think a lot of us. I've been saying for a while we're kind of in like this limbo state at the moment, where like we don't know where the game is going, and I think now we finally do.
Yeah,
Which is good, which is very
I
good.
think I'm really excited about this year. I think this year is gonna be the best year DBD has ever had. I'm sure of it,
Yeah, and not just from
guaranteed.
not just from a player count perspective, but just in general. Because
Yeah, no, from a general like game health, like
mhm.
general direction.
Yeah, I think 2025 is going to be a good year for games in general. If I'm honest, it seems like
Yeah,
a precipice year. It feels
yeah.
where people are finally starting to understand what they need to be doing. Um, but moving back to the topic again. By the way, welcome to the podcast where we talk about we, we somehow managed to get to this point.
Mm,
Uh, I'm going to start with the viewer questions a little bit because this was a very esoteric topic, for lack of a better word. It was a very broad topic, so like there wasn't really a way to narrow down its specific like questions on my end.
yeah.
So I did ask my community for some of them. I'm going to try to avoid the repeats for those who did post these questions. But from Fitz the Human, this goes back a little bit to the like the bug reporting and things like that. Um, do you think that it's a suitable substitute for content creators to make videos on bugs rather than just reporting them and making sure the devs get them that
Ooh,
way?
that is an interesting topic. I used to make videos on bugs, but like, I mean, bugs is like such a thing, right? Like, what is a bug? What is a tag? What is an exploit? Where does it start? Where does it end? It's like so many words for the same thing. Can I
Right.
can I flick on Oni or am I cheating?
Skinny
Like,
bird.
can I use fire up on Chucky and have a little bit of fun or start cheating? Like, I don't know, man. This like everyone has like their own opinion, but like if I think, okay, personally, if I'm a content creator, right, and
Hmm.
I think a bug like leads to less interactivity and makes the game more dull,
Hmm.
I will neither showcase it nor use it myself. That's what I personally that's
I
the rules I
Yeah.
imply on myself.
I did a video on Fire Up on Chucky recently, and the first thing I said was,
Dude,
"I know it's bugged. I didn't use the bug." That's pretty much what I said, and I'm not going to show you how to do it, even though it's really easy to do. Um,
to be honest, I think it's fun.
I,
I know like maybe I'm a bad person for that, but I think like honestly, it kind of like put the spice back on Scamper. Because like that's one thing I kind of hate about the version of Chucky we have now.
mhm,
Like Scamper was kind of like part of his identity,
mhm,
and it's like it was problematic. Like there's no way about it, right?
right.
Like the scamping 5 times and then like you kind of have to ensure a hit because you're 110 killer with a 17-second cooldown,
Mhm,
which is absolutely ridiculous. So you need to get those hits. If you miss one hit, then you're probably gonna lose. Meaning you have to play safe, and you're probably gonna scamper that pallet 5 times until the survivor's in your face, and it's kind of like boring for everyone involved.
right.
But like the history of okay, I'm like derailing a lot, but like
No,
the
you're good.
history
You're
of
good. You're fine.
how Chucky kind of became
Hmm.
as like it almost feel like he went from issue to issue,
Yeah.
and like
Yeah.
that's really unfortunate. Honestly, to me that's really unfortunate. I would love to fix that. And as a consultant, I also feel like I kind of failed to that degree. Like I would have loved to prevent that, but like obviously I'm also not a game designer, right?
Right.
Like I can't really think of everything. Like
Well,
there's no way to do that,
well, on top
especially
of
if you don't have the means to test it.
yeah, on top of that, like you're a consultant. You're not the one putting the code in.
True,
They don't
true.
always take exactly what you say every time.
Of course,
And
they
I
don't.
mean no offense by this. I hope they don't.
No, of
um,
course.
I don't know. It's with Chucky in particular because he's been bugged a lot. And then like you brought up the whole
I
thing
mean,
like what is a bug? Because there was a bug he had that no one even knew was a bug. Um, it was the his old cooldown because it used to start on his dash,
yeah,
and we just thought that
yeah,
was a
yeah.
feature.
That was actually a feature.
It,
That was a feature.
why did they call it a bug in the bug report?
Oh, okay, I'll tell you. The patch notes are completely like honestly, I would not listen to DVD patch notes at all. Like I
Okay.
would not listen to it. Like it's like the way they're written. I don't know the exact process, but I would not like. I think it's like it's definitely not the proper way to do it. I think someone goes around after like, yo, what did you do again? Yeah, I'm not sure. Maybe this made it into this patch. I'm not sure. But like put it in the patch notes anyway. It's like, yeah, surely someone fixed the spirit thing, right? Yeah, surely someone did it. It's like, yeah, maybe not. Maybe we had it on the patch notes 4 times already and it's not fixed. It's like, I don't know, like that has to be a shit show. Like there's no other way.
Well, there's also like someone brought up to me the fact that it's a French Canadian company might also be part of it. Um, because sometimes it's not really a language barrier necessarily, but like
Yeah.
it's a what's the word I'm looking for? It's a dialect barrier is basically what it is. Um, so that could also be part of it. But
Wait,
yeah,
that was actually noted as a bug?
yeah, that was noted
The
as a
way
bug. It was called a bug. Yeah, we complained about it for a while because a lot of Chucky players were like, "This was a bug." We just thought it
I
was a
think
feature.
I think I think this is a matter of like the left hand not knowing what the right hand is doing. There's like a little bit of a coordination issue.
I mean, I'm glad you said that because now I don't sound like a crazy person. uh, by the way, that feature should return. Just saying.
I mean, it's like the reason why that is because the cooldown of Chucky was not for the slice and dice, it was for the hidey ho.
Right.
And the moment you start slice and dice, hidey ho ends.
Yeah.
Like I don't know, but like maybe yeah, man. This is like I swear there's like a situation where the yeah what I said like that one person doesn't know what the other is doing because like the thing is the way killers are designed in DBD is like someone is like a killer designer, right? And
Hmm.
they're like, okay, this is my killer now. I'm going to design a killer, and then they're responsible for a set killer, and then they go all the way until the release. They're like, yeah, this is my killer. I'm like responsible for this, and if anything happens, I'm the one to decides. But the moment this killer releases, it switches hands because the moment the killer is released, it's not on the killer design anymore.
Hmm.
It's on the life balancing team. So that's can oftentimes lead to a scenario where I think there's a little bit of a thing where they might not really communicate well, or it's like maybe they. I mean, it's like I can kind of understand. I also have like communication issues with my editor, and like it's just gets infinitely harder the more people are involved,
Yeah,
and
for sure.
like yeah, it becomes harder to coordinate. But obviously, like the things like the patch notes, there has to be a better process to be found to make those.
Yeah, I feel like because I mean this has happened in the past before. I mean, how many times does the patch note come out? We read it, we think we understand it, and then the actual thing comes out, and it's like,
But
oh, they meant this.
you would be surprised how much power the consultants have over the life balancing of the game. You would probably be surprised. There's a
Really?
lot, but I'm not the only one, obviously.
Yeah, no,
Like
no, for sure.
that's an entire group.
Yeah, and you don't have to
So
name
yeah.
names, obviously. I'm not going to make you do that. But
So
um,
if there's like if there's like a tier list on what is important for like designer positions, life design is the lowest. So
mhm,
like if you ever like start somewhere, you're probably your entry position as a designer is probably going to be life design. Is
mhm.
like the least priority in a way. It's like I don't know.
It's
It's a little
just
bit sad because it gets the least amount of resources, and oftentimes it's like we can only change the numbers now. So what number should we change? It's like yeah,
speaking of that. Can you again, you don't have to if you can't say anything, it's fine. But can you shed some light on how balancing license killers works? Can they just do that, or do they have to?
they can do everything.
They can just do it. They don't have to consult
Yeah,
anybody. Okay,
yeah, they don't.
okay. I wonder if they've ever abused it. I don't know because like for a while there, a lot of people thought the reason they never changed Freddy was because of the licensing issues.
Uh, oh, I'm not sure if they had to contact the developer. I'm not sure. Like
Yeah.
that, maybe for the Myers one, no,
Okay.
definitely not. Freddy, I'm not sure because, like, yeah,
It's
just changing numbers they can do.
it's probably different license to license, I would assume.
Yeah,
And it also depends on the severity of the change, I would also assume.
I think it depends on the contract, but like you can definitely change numbers, and that is completely okay. They could also like change demo
Yeah,
after
after the Netflix
the
thing. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. We're never getting skins for demo again. um but yeah, back to a little bit to the main question though. But do you think it's basically it's do you think that putting a video out is more important than just reporting it?
What do you mean?
So like for the trickster one, for example, do you think it's more
Yeah.
important to put the videos out saying what the issue is rather than just being like going to the reporting page and just saying this is the issue and just
Do you
hoping?
mean for the epilepsy thing, or what do you mean?
Yeah,
Or
for
do you
the
mean for the?
just in general,
Oh,
but for the epilepsy thing, I suppose that's the
I mean, it's like the thing with the epilepsy thing that needed to happen is like you need to somehow figure out what system
mhm.
how to reproduce this, right? Like that's the number one thing. If you don't know how to reproduce it and you kill switch the killer, then you might as well just put him in a grave. Because like, how are you ever gonna find this out?
Yeah,
Like imagine you're a QA, right? You're literally a guy who's like, yeah, well, there's like this thing, and like you have one video. It's like, okay, something glitched out. Like, what do you do now? And then you spend like hundreds of hours like doing that. It's kind of hard.
right.
I mean, I think I know for a fact that content really helps to
Mhm.
shape and like also like um give ideas, and it really, really does help. And sometimes when it comes to certain topics, I feel like I have more power to change it as a content creator than I do as a consultant, which is kind of funny, but yeah.
You know, no one asked this question, or someone did ask me this question to ask you, but they didn't put it down. And it kind of leads off that the devs do watch videos, right?
Yeah.
Okay. I know that seems like a stupid question because I know they watch streams, but like I'm genuinely curious if they actually like
Oh,
watch like content creator
it's like
videos.
there are people who are like the entire job is to like understand the community opinion,
Hmm.
and like they tell the designers what the community opinion is, and like the designers try to like take that into account
Hmm.
as like, yeah, that side I can influence quite a bit. Like, I don't know, like that's just how it works, because the community opinion is like very dwelled in with the content creators,
Right.
and like, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, like I would probably never notice. I've never seen any comment or say they've watched my stuff, but who knows?
I
Um,
mean, to be honest, like what was it, who made this really good video on the Trickster rework?
Zozo.
Yeah, Zozo.
No. Well,
Yeah,
Zozo has, and
exactly. That's a good example
yeah,
of like how influence can happen.
yeah,
That was a good video.
and
Made good points.
I believe Rev did as well. I could be wrong. Rev typically
Yeah,
sticks to like the forums and such, but
yeah. Made
um,
really good points. Was very reformulated. Had very, very good points, which is also didn't just insult anyone. Made
mhm.
really good points. And that can lead to change. Absolutely.
Yeah, and I also like this is a weird one. And again, if you can't answer it, that's fine. But uh, do they have a list of like particular people who play certain killers to a certain degree? If that makes any sense. I've always wondered this.
The problem is like hypothetically, right? If
Hmm.
you're like from a life balancing, you want to change a killer, and
Hmm.
you like get a group going with like let's say, I don't know, the trapper mains.
Hmm.
That's I say hypothetically. Like the problem is like this, from a legal standpoint, that is unfeasible, because first they need to sign an NDA,
Right.
where it's like you need to draft an NDA, and it's like there's like so much nuance attached to it that it's just not really viable. It's
Well,
just not viable.
well,
So like,
I don't mean in the sense of like they go to
oh
them specifically, but
yeah.
like they have a list and like, oh, we've been watching this person who plays, let's say Trapper like religiously, like that's all
Yeah.
they play, and like they kind of just watch them to like get an idea. Like I'm just curious if like they have a list. I doubt it,
Nah,
but
I don't think so. I
okay.
don't think so.
Just
I mean, it's like maybe like I think every designer has like their own thing going on.
mhm.
I was like, yeah, I don't know.
I'm just imagining one of the designers with just sticky notes of content creator names on their
I mean,
monitor.
I know for a fact that I get influenced by creators. Like
Mhm.
everyone does, right? Like you
Yeah,
build your opinion on the stuff you see, and like sure, like your like creators can definitely influence that.
yeah. I mean, it's opinion is formed based on other opinions and experience and things like that. So obviously, it's gonna
Yeah,
influence in some way. I mean, we're called influencers for a reason.
true.
um, some of those reasons aren't things I like, but it's uh, and following up from that question a bit, as far as reporting the bugs, do you think that a lot of content creators tend to blow some bugs out of proportion?
Of course. I
Okay,
mean, yeah.
it's
I
part of
mean,
the territory,
I
but yeah.
think blowing things out of proportion is part of the job description. To be
Hmm.
honest,
Yeah, unfortunately, but yes.
I mean, I don't know. Like you just want clicks. Like, well, what do people care about? Like the new things. This is how DBD works. Yeah.
Um, Next question from 712DA. What a not suspicious name. I'm joking. Uh, the DBD community is getting as big as it ever was. Therefore, there's a lot of new content creators and regular players arriving on the scene, especially when it comes to discussing and reevaluating old habits, thoughts, and dramas. Do you think the community opinion and overall vibes are changing on such topics? And if so, are they changing towards the better or the worse? So,
What?
okay, I'll surmise that a bit. With how big the community is getting, do you think that some old opinions are changing? And do you think it's
Uh,
for the better or worse?
oh, that's a good question. I mean, well, what do you mean with drama though? Like, well, what do you mean with drama?
I would probably just take the drama out of it because I try to try to not.
I mean, it's like the opinion gets shaped. I
Mhm.
don't know if it's for better or worse. Like some things,
Well,
some things will. I mean, it gets refined over time,
mhm,
but like there's new problems arise.
mhm.
I wouldn't say better or worse. To be honest, like I wouldn't
Just different.
put it that way. Yeah,
I would just say
it's shaping
different. Yeah.
and becoming different. Yeah,
Yeah. Well, because I mean, we talked about the tier list a little bit earlier, but it's like Nurse and Meyer or Myers. Nurse and Myers have always been S tier. Nurse and Blight have always been S tier.
yeah,
And I even for new players, they tend to understand this and agree
yeah,
with it. I haven't seen I mean, I've seen maybe a few put Blight maybe a little lower, but for the most part, I can't think of a single person who would disagree that Nurse is not just the best killer in the game in the entire time I played this
yeah,
game. Um, I've
yeah.
heard arguments
I
for
mean, it's
she's
like
not as good as some people say she is, but they still say she's the best in the game, you know?
yeah. I'm not gonna lie. Um, if it was up to me, I would probably nerf nerfs quite significantly. Honestly, like luckily the nerf lanes are safe because I'm not everyone agrees with this. But I
Hmm.
think like the fact that nurse is on the kill rate in the middle of the pack shows that it's a massive problem. Because like conceptually as a killer, I think she should be like somewhat around the lowest. Because
It brings into question the idea of and people can argue how hard she is to play, but it brings into question the idea of ease of use versus strength given, right?
yeah, no, I don't think she's I honestly don't think nurse that hard.
I
But
think
like yeah,
she's a character. Like for me, she's like Hag, and I know. Let me finish my statement.
yeah,
She's like Hag in the sense of like I feel like once you play her for like a few games in a row, you get the hang of it.
yeah,
And I think the
yeah,
problem is a lot of the statistics on Nurse are like people doing dailies or people just like picking her up once in a while. It's not the
yeah.
dedicated people.
Yeah,
And
these people will always like lower the win rate. I mean, there was a time when Nas was the lowest win rate. I'm pretty sure
yeah,
there was
yeah,
times
it's Chucky right
where,
now. But yeah,
according to Nightlight, I don't know if I don't know if I trust that because Nightlight is I think only PC players,
yes. It's only PC
more
players.
or less. I
Yeah,
think like in theory you could upload that, but who does that?
yeah.
So yeah, but yeah, Chucky's really low win rate. Feels pretty bad.
uh, but I mean, then there's killers like like Ghostface and Myers and some of the more middle of the pack ones, and then like the highest win rate at the moment is Freddy, which
Yeah, not so.
and
Eh,
again like the numbers don't tell the whole story. It's like he's also the most played at the moment, so it's like Is it because there's so many games for
Yeah,
the data? Is it because he's too strong? Is it because people don't
that's a good
understand how to
question.
play against him? You know.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, time will tell. I feel like the
Mm,
killer's pretty hard to go against, but yeah, I think a little bit of time is needed for survivors to also adjust to his power.
right.
But yeah,
Uh, moving on a bit. For Bubba Trundle. I always say their name wrong. It's Bubba Truddle. Trundle. There's no L. Okay, there's no L. From Bubba. Abstract question, but if you could control how this is a really random one, but if you can control how 2v8 is handled in the future, what would be your goalpost and decision making for its future iterations? How often would you make the mode playable?
sure. So how often do we make them all playable? That's okay. I would take the different approach. So first, I would like go back to the drawing board,
Mm-hmm.
see how do we make Survivor exciting in 2v8? How do we get survivors excited to play in big groups, maybe do fun things because like everyone is already sold on the killer side.
Mm-hmm.
And the only problem that I would want to solve is like make Survivor more enticing,
Mm-hmm.
and that way the queues are fixed. And if the queues are fixed, then I think like first fix the queues and then build upon that. But like I feel like it was like never there was not enough thought put into fixing the queues until now. I don't know if that's going to change, but like I think that needs to change. Like the base approach, I would do different. I would like scrap the idea of how survivors now see what is exciting about the walls. No, what's the name?
The
The
classes,
classes
yeah.
that we have right now. What is mid about it, and then see from there. I would for sure like give them items. Probably that would be one thing I would do.
Oh, for sure.
And then like the guide class, I would completely throw into the trash. Like doing gens fast is not exciting. And yeah, that's how I would handle it.
Yeah, it's funny. I've criticized a little bit because they added the ability to be able to rescue people from being grabbed because you can actually stun and blind the killers now when they're picking up.
Yeah,
But flashlights are not part of. I mean, they are. You can find them in a chest, but
yeah.
there's no
I
way
would
to.
give the scout class flashlight. To be
Yeah.
honest, that's one thing. I think if you would do that by itself, you would already have like plus 10% players on 2v8, like by itself, like these kind of things, right?
Yeah. I also think like I've said in the past, I feel like we should have like a tank class that uses like Metal of Man or something. Uh,
Yeah, yeah.
it,
Yeah, for sure. Like anything that rewards group play or like makes sense in a group, because that's like the one thing that 2v8 has going for it. And
mhm,
I think that has never been like there's nothing done with it. Like everyone's like, oh my god, two killers are together. This is so cool. I
mhm.
was like, yeah, okay, everyone is sold already. We need to see like what kind of classes can we make. Healing is kind of amazing. Feels good to use that ability if you have with a friend or something.
Scout's good. I like Scout.
Yeah, scout is fun, but like yeah, you just need to somehow like bring the fun into that, and
Mhm.
then yeah, go from there.
Yeah. And then how long do you think it should, how often do you think it should be up? Do you think I think it should be
Uh,
permanent at this point, honestly, if I'm honest.
oh, I think you would need to fix Q times fast. You could not make it permanent
Well, I think
if you have like you cannot sustain like 300% XP plus 400% blood points.
I
I think I don't know.
my idea with it though is that it would be the queue times would be bad for like 2 months and then they would fix
Yeah,
themselves. But you know that's a risk, and I understand why they don't want to or probably shouldn't listen to me on that. But I'm just saying, I
yeah. I
think
mean, I've had that approach. I think
mhm.
it's possible. I think it's very risky though. To be
Oh,
honest, I would
for
probably not
sure,
go that
for
way.
sure. I think if like you know if the water starts to boil, I think that's the solution. But we'll see. I mean, the other thing is like the first iteration was kind of bad because we only had like the 5 killers. Technically, only 2 because everyone was just playing Nurse and Blight. And then I mean now with Wesker and Nemesis, and to some people's dismay, Legion. Uh, like I think the game was just going to get better over time. I just really do hope they do look more into the Survivor experience. Because that is honestly just the biggest problem with it. Is just Survivor side just doesn't feel different enough. I think is my problem with it. Because even like the guide class, like it just doesn't.
Yeah. I mean, it's like, yeah, Legion also obviously didn't help, but
Mhm.
yeah.
Yeah, and again, like I'm all for like because the argument I hear like, oh, we can't give them flashlights because that would just make it frustrating. maybe, but like, I hate to say it, but a lot of the fun in this game is kind of frustrating the enemy a little bit. I think there's a line there, but like I really do feel like that's
Fine. Curious, like I would right now I would not care much about killers. Like the best thing you can do for the killers is to make the Q times better. To
yeah.
be honest, like even if you add frustration to some degree, you're literally just gonna make the game more better. Like as sad as that sounds, because like the worst thing about is by far the Q times. And if you ask people what they had about 2v8, then they will probably say Q times if they play killer.
Yeah, well, it's funny because like whenever I play 2v8, even like with the 15 to 20 minute queue times, once I'm in the match, I'm really not like I'm trying, obviously. I care, but like I'm kind of like just my brain's kind of off during the mode. So like if they added flashlights or like made stunning and things like this more possible, I don't think I would really mind. The game was supposed to be kind of more casual than the base one, so like
Yeah.
maybe I'm just weird for that, but like I
Yeah,
really wouldn't
honestly,
care.
I feel like that's one thing that's pretty funny if you bring that up. Like the community is so split on that. It's like on one hand they're like, oh my god, this gun mode is so casual, but like they want everything to be balanced and fair at the same time.
And I will say 2v8. I've made a crappy video on it, but like 2v8 was actually I think how they could do a ranked mode. Let me finish
Yeah,
that statement. Let me finish that statement before anyone thinks that's how. No, we don't just make 2v8 the ranked mode. My idea is the class system and the individual buffs they give to killers, and just removing
yeah,
perks. I think could be how they could do a ranked mode.
yeah. That's a really good idea actually. That's
Um.
I had a similar plan because like there's so many things you cannot possibly balance
Mhm.
for a ranked mod, and that would probably be the easiest way. But
Yeah.
I don't think they're ever gonna go that route.
Oh,
To be
probably
honest.
not, but one day maybe.
Mm,
Uh, Next question from Arshimi Bob, our resident Vecna main. How
um,
easy do you think it is to ruin a consensus about a character? Like if a super popular Pyramid Head player said, actually his Eries are super good and you should use them every game, how easy would it be to change the public and general player base opinion in that aspect?
I think hard. I think like you people care about your opinion because they agree with you more often, or like they think you're right. And it's like
It's the curse.
nah. I think the DBD players are really opinionated,
Hmm.
but like they like to have the how do I say it? Like
It's expertise bias is what it is.
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
it's like, well, this guy with 10,000 hours said it, so it has to be true.
Mm, honestly, I think you might be able to impress a lot of people, but you will also alienate a lot of others that will never listen to you ever again
Yeah.
if they hard disagree. I don't think you can just blindly make them think something. To some degree, yeah.
Hmm.
Uh, uh, it's like the thing is, if you do that, sure. Like there's gonna be 25% who are not experienced enough to know that you're full of shit.
Hmm.
But like a lot of you will also at the same time, there are gonna be a lot of people who are like, what is he talking about? And they will know, and they will also voice their opinions in the comments. So I don't
if
think it's that easy.
if I see a video of someone claiming that Hard Hat is actually OP on Chucky, I
Yeah.
will lose my mind. Uh,
Wait, that add-on is so weirdly worded now. Do you actually complete a scamper with that add-on? Do you dash afterwards? No.
yeah, you still dash.
Really?
Yeah, you still
Oh,
dash. Yeah.
damn.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, it just insta. It's weird because it's still worded from when he could manual scamper, but yeah, you still dash.
Damn. Okay.
Yeah, it's just bad because you kind of want to leave pallets
Yeah,
up.
maybe that on the game though. That on the game.
Oh yeah.
Think about it. OP.
Well, no, because a lot of Gideon's ones you can scamper a lot of those loops still.
Yeah, I know, right? I play against the Chucky on that, and he demolished me by scampering. Like I dropped the pallet, there's nothing I could have done because like on the left and right of the pallet, there's like walls, Like I
Mhm.
cannot possibly dodge.
Yeah, but like it does bring into question like certain add-ons like that because like Rapid Brutality is another good one, right? Like I said earlier, like I've been running it on Chucky nonstop. I think it's really good on him. If I make a
Yeah.
video on that, I can promise you there's going to be so many people telling me I'm dumb for it. Which and again,
Honestly,
like
I could see that instantly. Honestly, I saw one person do that, and
mhm.
I totally understood because like if you have such a long dash duration, having like that little bit of extra movement speed
Hmm.
will oftentimes make the difference between hitting something or not. It's like the same with Vecna and Fly.
Yeah. Well, and it's also like even with like play styles or certain ways to like play killers, it's like I'm trying to think of a good example of this. It's like I was gonna say Nemesis for some reason, or like Pyramid Head. Like a lot of people say, don't bring hook perks on Pyramid Head because you're just gonna cage them all, and it's like, well, no, but yes, but no,
Yeah.
and it's like so the opinion kind of shifted towards Pyramid Head, where it's like, don't bring like hook perks are bad on him, even though that's not
Yeah.
really the case. Or even with
Yeah.
even with like the current meta, but even with the current like finesse dramaturgy, right? It's like people are saying it's the most OP thing in the game when I
Really.
vehemently, yeah, a lot of people say it's really
I
OP.
mean, to be honest, if I play a one killer against that, then I sometimes want to cry. That is absolutely true. Because like if you actually have if you have that and you're playing pick, it feels like there's nothing you can do. Because the guy's gonna play super greedy. It feels like all data, it really does.
Mm-hmm.
Because the survivor can play super greedy, and even if they lose, they can just press the button and they're fine again. So
Mm-hmm.
you kind of have to like kind of run into the pallets because they can greed extra much. And it actually has so many old Dead Hard vibes. I understand because, but at the same time, it's like it has the same problem where it's like if it's a Nasa Blight, they're not gonna care about those extra like half a meter, you know?
Mm-hmm. That is true. I mean, it's the same thing. It's the same thing with like Resurgence. It's like a killer who's like proxy camping doesn't really care.
Yeah,
Yeah, so yeah, it's weird in that sense. And like I was actually thinking about it with like maps. Like I have gone on record, and people will call me insane for this. I like Area Crows.
damn. Okay, I'm calling you insane for this.
I like Area Crows. I don't know why. I just enjoy the map. I like, but that's the thing. Like I'm not influential enough to like sway public opinion on that. But if like you or like
Dude, I
Otstarva
swear,
came up
no,
with a
I
video
swear, if I
yesterday,
make that, no way. I can say that people will call me insane. Okay, I'm gonna post that on Twitter right now.
well, this happened with Ots with
All right,
Gideons.
this is
Remember?
top tier bait right now.
Yeah,
Fury of Crows.
post it right now.
Yeah, I'll post it right now.
But this happened
All
with
right,
Ots. Remember with Gideons? Uh,
okay, I don't know if I actually want to do that, but it's like I'm telling you, people will call me insane. Like that's like bait material. Saying, do you mean on killer?
yeah,
Really?
genuinely, I
Okay.
enjoy the map on Killer. Genuinely speaking,
Oh,
I
okay.
do not know why. Like
Um,
it's just a vibe. I don't know why.
fair.
Again, it's just like I said, Ots did a I think it was a whole video on it, but he did that video on Gideon's a little while ago, claiming it was technically killer sided, and people gave him so much crap for saying that, even though technically speaking he's right, but he's also wrong, and it's it's a weird thing for that, but it's like that never swayed public opinion. People still hate that map killer.
Mm, I think it's just like honestly, I don't know if I even disagree. Like I would love to know like the win rate I have on Gideon because I think on Killer it's gonna be pretty high. I think I'm pretty
I,
sure. But like the thing about
mhm.
the map that is like insane, it's like the frustrating factor is immensely high. Like you can have such frustrating games on that where like a survivor is witness of opportunity, which is like the one park you should be afraid of. Because like if you smell that someone has windows, that's what I kind of like go for. Like if think someone has windows and they path straight to the pad, I'll just leave them. Yeah,
Yeah,
but
again, like it's just for Gideon's in particular. I haven't watched them over, but I'm pretty sure I win more on that map than I lose. But I hate playing on it. I think that's the
yeah,
bigger thing with it.
yeah, yeah.
Um,
The games you can have insanely frustrating games, and
mm.
they can tend to
it,
stick
it
with you.
it's just very flowcharty, and it's like you can't really play quote unquote the loops. You just kind of brute force it.
Yeah, yeah.
But it's like,
There's no the interactivity is very low on this
mhm.
map.
Yeah, I think it's and some might call me crazy for this. I think it's kind of similar to Midwich, just not as severe.
Yeah,
Where it's like you run down a hall, you go into a room with a pallet, you play that loop, that pallet goes down. Okay, go to the next room, right?
no,
There's some interactivity because you can play some of the loops, but it's similar in that case, which I think is actually part of the problem people have with like uh, maybe I'm wrong for this. I think it's also part of the problem people have with Eerie. I just don't think it's as obvious on Eerie, if that makes any sense. And it's started the problem people are having with like Dead Dogs at the moment, where it's like a lot of survivors are just running straight to main building from anywhere and just
Yeah.
using the, I'm going to use this word in heavy quotes, pseudo infinite that the main building has.
Yeah.
So yeah, like again, like I think a map can be well designed, but also not well designed, but I think a map can be in your favor, but still feel bad to play on. I think that's perfectly, it's definitely a thing.
Yeah, that's
Um,
true.
but yeah, as far as like swaying public opinion, I can't really name a situation where that's happened anytime very recently. Like,
I mean, it's like, sure, I don't know. I think like mm, I can tell you the opposite maybe. Like Oz was so convinced that Scavenger's OP.
mhm,
I don't know if you remember that, but like when
yeah,
Scavenger came out, he was like very very convinced that that park is just like bad for the game.
mhm.
It's like I don't know if he really. I mean, like I understand his point why it's bad for the game, but like yeah, yeah, it never really manifested. I mean, if
Well, I mean,
I play against Scavenger maybe twice.
I mean, I think the thing with that one is like that wasn't necessarily swaying public opinion; that was starting public opinion.
Fair, maybe.
So I think it's a like I think it's a lot easier to like when a PTB comes out to be like this perk is OP or this perk is good or
Yeah.
bad right from the start, and then but like a year later to claim like actually we were wrong. I think people are a lot harder to change their thoughts on it.
Yeah, that's true.
Um, Again, rapid brutality I think is a weird case for this because I remember when that perk first came out and people were like, "This perk's not going to be that good. We're never going to see it. No one's going to run it." And again, like I feel like I see it like on a lot of killers now. Not some of the more OP ones. Like I obviously Nurse isn't running it. Blight's
Yeah,
probably not running it, but you know.
it's a level like the new Save the Best for Last for sure. And
Mhm.
killers who can make use of it and don't need Lalas have great potential with it.
Doctor, I think it's really good on Deathslinger.
Freddy too, yeah.
Yeah, and Freddy. Yeah, I've been running save rapid on Freddy a lot. Um, but yeah, like again, it's. But you know, if I ever say that, a lot of people do disagree with me that it's actually not good in general. Um, because they would rather just run pain res again, I guess. But which is a whole different conversation of like weighting perks against other perks rather than on their own. You know, um, which is very difficult to do in this game, I feel, where it's like, oh, this perk's actually pretty good, and then someone's like, well, this one's just better, so why wouldn't you run it? You know, like botany and desperate measures, I think, are a good example of this. Or
Yeah.
dear God, alien instincts. I still don't understand. The perk was power crept before it came out and after it came out. That's a weird thing to happen. But yeah, to the next question from spoiler alert. Uh, do you? This is really random and off topic, but do you have any sections of lore, backstory, tomes, or flavor text
Huh.
that have really stuck with you?
Oh. Oh. No. Honestly, I'm not someone who really indulges that much into lore.
Nothing that's even like made you laugh or something like that.
Oh. I found the Skull Merchant story pretty interesting because it's like so like it's called Skull Merchant, but it's like so different.
Hmm.
So I guess if I would have to say something, it's probably that.
Okay, fair enough. Hang on a second, pulling up the other ones. I'm not like I feel bad because like I enjoy the lore of this game. I just like am not as into it as I feel like I should be. I don't know. It's a weird thing with that. So ignore my unprofessional ways of pulling this up. Moving on to the YouTube side of the questions. From Killer Streak 1994. Have you ever had something in the game that you enjoyed and purposely didn't bring attention to because you didn't want it to go away? That's a deep cut question.
No, I
No.
can't recall.
Okay.
Actually, I can't recall. Like you mean gatekeeping, right? I mean, it's
Yeah.
like sometimes people told me things and I gave them the promise to not. Actually, oh my god, yeah, I have one, but like I don't know. Like that was not because I wanted to keep it.
Hmm.
It's because I gave a promise.
Okay.
but like the Alchemist Chucky, the first version, that was literally from the very beginning. Literally, Alchemist Chucky existed from day one of Chucky.
Yeah, I
I was like,
know.
I knew about that one,
We,
and
we,
people
we-
told me
yeah,
about it.
a lot of people were aware. I was in the Flickland Discord, and there was someone in
Yeah,
there.
exactly. Okay,
Yeah,
someone told me about that, but I kept my word. I didn't tell anyone.
yeah. I think that's happened a couple times on Chucky in particular. Once again, I'm in that space, so I know
Yeah,
where
there were some different methods, yeah, and
mhm,
some were patched. But like there was one the where you could store the scamper, right? Like that's what I mean.
yeah,
That one was like that was like in the game for like a year, and like that was actually pretty well gate kept, I have to say. Like nobody actually spoiled that one. But then
yeah,
it became mainstream eventually.
yeah. It's one of those things where it's like I purposely told some Chucky players, it's like, dude, don't show them this. People are gonna hate the character more if you show
Yeah.
them this. It's like,
I was pretty game breaking, to be honest. Like
yeah,
that was also
it
like
was. I've done it on accident a few, or I did it on accident because it's not in the game. Well, it's kind of in the game still, but not really. Um, I did it on accident a few times, and I felt bad every time. There was a point where Chucky was so bugged, I refused to play him for like a week.
yeah.
Um, but no, interesting. I think they meant more like if there was like a meta or something, like a perk you knew was like secretly OP and just didn't bring attention to it.
No, that never happened.
uh, uh,
I'm always very straightforward with saying what I think. That
mhm.
sometimes can be a pretty bad thing, to be honest. Sometimes it gets me in trouble, but like, yeah, no, I don't.
I think it's valiant. I think it's something that does need to be done more often. Personally, I think if there's a problem in the game, I know this is kind of like showing my bias towards this entire conversation, but it's like I think if there's a problem in the game, it needs to be shown. It's just
Yeah,
how you do it. I think is more important, but yeah, I still think it needs to be shown because you can you can do it in a bad way, right? Like I'm trying to think of an example, but I really don't want to put anyone on the spot or anything. But like there's a good and bad way to do it. Like again, with a three genning situation, like I feel like most people were very respectful with it for the most part. To bring
yeah.
attention to it being a problem. There were others who were kind of malicious with it, but
I mean, yeah, intent kind of matters in that regard. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. From Hippo Hero, my biggest question is, what do you think the biggest problem DBD currently faces is? The GG Go Next slugging,
Ooh.
bottleneckings for S tier killers, major power gaps between solo queue and Swift, things like that.
Biggest problem, I think I would say going next. Yeah,
Okay.
actually.
You,
Um. Yeah, I mean, there's some things like the power gap between killers is still really big, and that would be lovely if that gets made smaller. But yeah, I think going next kind of like reduce the match quality overall quite
mm-hmm.
significantly. And like I think part of that problem is like how far behind solo queue is, or like how far behind it feels like it is. And that's halfway because of the matchmaking is, I don't know, it feels very too wide.
Mm-hmm.
It feels like sometimes I play with people who literally just installed the game, and I'm not sure if that's right.
Yeah, so
I think that's I think it's partly to blame for that because yeah, people just they are frustrated and
mm-hmm.
they don't see a way. You know, I think like frustration is a major part of why everyone is going next. Like me and my friends, we tried to do the world record fastest escape,
Mm-hmm.
and we actually got a DC streak on killers. So we made 7 killers in a row DC, and we didn't do that by being malicious or toxic. And anyway, the only thing we did was do gens fast. I was like, that kind of showed me like how frustrating experiences makes
Mm-hmm.
people like quit, and like that's what really
I mean,
like
I mean,
gets
like,
them going.
like I've never gotten to that point to like DCing when gens go fast, but I mean, there are times when like I'm chasing someone at the start of the match and three gens
Yeah,
pop, and I'm like,
yeah,
oh
it's just
my god.
frustrating. Like you're just like, nah, get me out. And I understand the feeling. I really do.
And then even on Survivor's side, it's like you go down in like 10 seconds because something that wasn't even your fault. Like the map RNG just happened to not be in your favor that match.
Yeah, I feel like, I mean, like oftentimes people just like overall frustrated and they're like, oh my God, this game started poorly.
Mm-hmm.
This is never going to end well ever because they have like a pessimistic outlook on the rest of the game.
Well,
So like some people are obviously like generally just frustrated with everything and they should just stop playing the game.
mm-hmm.
But yeah,
I was
the
go ahead. Sorry.
you could definitely help that issue with like better match quality overall.
I was watching a video by someone and they brought up a very good point for like the survivor side of it that I never really thought about. Survivors really don't have a snowball mechanic. Like base game.
Yeah.
Like if you're having a bad game as killer, let's say 3 gens pop in that first chase. I mean, I've won plenty of matches after that, you know? Just cuz like I was able to snowball it. Survivors really don't have that. And I wonder if that's part of the problem because like once you're losing on Survivor, it's kind of over. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Um, I don't know. I just thought it was an interesting perspective. I never really thought about it. Maybe it's because I don't play enough Survivor, but you know. But like I mean, that thought never crossed my mind that they don't really have anything inherently to come back from a bad situation. There's perks for sure, but like if you don't happen to bring them, then I mean, there's nothing you can really do.
That-
Yeah. And this is a more of a specific content creation question for you though. Unless you want to keep going with that topic.
No, sure, go for it.
What sparked your passion and made you want to be a DBD content creator?
What made me want to play? What made me want to be a DBD content creator? That's an interesting question.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, I started creating content for DBD when like COVID got really bad and like you couldn't go outside anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And like, I don't know, I just started streaming because like, why not? Like, I literally had nothing to do at the time. Like, there was nothing going on. So it was kind of natural. Like, I got convinced by odds actually to start streaming at that time because I was always like swiffing with him every night back then. And he was like, okay, you commentate your game anyway. Might as well just start streaming. It's like, okay. And then I started streaming. And then he also, like a few years later, he convinced me to start YouTube too.
Yeah, I think it's weird. My situation is kind of similar. I was playing the game like religiously during COVID, and a friend of mine was like, "Your content kind of makes better, works better for like streaming," and I was like, "Oh, okay. I guess I'll try it." It's really what it just came down to. Um, it's. I mean, a lot of people got started during that time.
Yeah.
Which is just, I mean, it's just the way the world was at the time. I was working 80 hours a week during that time too, so I don't even know how I managed.
Damn. Okay.
I was working in a grocery store during COVID. Trust me, it was not fun. But yeah, I mean, I don't know why. Like, sometimes I'll ask this question to people, like it'll get brought up, and I'm like expecting like some like superhero origin story. It's just like, no, I just decided one day. You know, a friend convinced me. It's like, okay.
Yeah, no, there was no. I mean, I didn't have bad hopes. I was just like, okay,
Yeah.
just socialize a little bit, hang out with friends. Like that's what was the initial thought.
This is kind of branching off of that question. Again, don't have to answer it if you don't want to. Did you think you'd get as far as you have doing this?
No. I mean, I did it only for fun. Like I would have never thought that I would do this. Like I never thought of this as a career choice. Like that always happened because like out of passion, right? Like it's cool to do something you're passionate about. Like it's always better, no matter what you do for a living. I believe, like I don't know, whatever I want to do for a living, I'm like, for me, it's really important that I'm passionate about it.
Right.
Is that what makes me like thrive, and that what makes it fun? And I'm just like passionate about it. I like I'm very passionate about like content creation in general, and I think that's one of the. Yeah, I think a lot about it. Like, how could I improve that? Like, what makes good YouTube? If you watch my early YouTube videos, I still have them up. I had no clue what I was doing. I was like, I had like the most monotone voice. It's like everything was terrible. I don't know how I even got views on that, but yeah.
Yeah, don't watch the first version of the first episode of the podcast. I had no idea how to talk to people.
Yeah, that's like learning. I did learning by doing, and yeah, I'm really passionate about it, and it kind of worked out.
Oh, fair enough.
But like, I also did a little bit of a Hail Mary, to be honest, because like, yeah, it was COVID. Like, there's nothing going on. It's like, might as well try your hardest. Once I got partner on Twitch, I don't know, I had like 200 views at the time. I like kind of did a calculation. If I get like 300 views on Twitch and I get 20K views on a YouTube video, then I can pay my rent with YouTube. I was like, okay, that was the goalpost I had. And yeah, at this point, I don't have to worry about the goalpost anymore, and I'm forever grateful about that. But yeah, I just like love what I do.
Were you working at the time, or was it just like
I was a
completely
student
locked down?
actually, and
Oh,
everything got cancelled like right before the end of the semester, so it was totally fucked, and like everything, like the study was, everything was like useless anyway. I was like, you study for a test and then it's not even there. So yeah, that was felt pretty
yeah.
pretty terrible.
I always forget at the time I'm decently older than most people, so I tend to forget that my schooling days were done when COVID happened. Um, yeah. This is a really random question, and I have a feeling it's an inside joke. But if hens could lay an egg, what would it hatch
Oh my
into?
god.
Well, what's the answer?
Obviously another hen, right?
Another hen.
Right. Hence 334.
It would just be the plushie, right?
True, actually.
Yeah, just go buy a dozen eggs. One of them was guaranteed to have a hen's plushie in it. You heard it here. Um, from God, I love names online that I definitely am going to mispronounce. The Altomato, I think that's what that is. I'm so sorry. Was there a specific moment when you realized your channel had become big enough for you to have to start taking your responsibility as a content creator seriously? So, like, was there a moment when like
Yeah.
you felt like you were actually kind of influencing the Dead by Daylight community a bit?
Oh, influencing the double. Oh. Ah. That's a good question. I don't think there was like one singular moment that I could, maybe dramaturgy finesse, honestly. That's probably the biggest influence I had. Like
Mm-hmm.
outside of the consultant thing, obviously. But like dramaturgy finesse is, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's probably the biggest one, and it's funny because I always joke about it. I remember when I first saw it, I joked about it because I hate to tell you, I don't watch every video the moment it goes up, uh, but I saw like 4 people running it in a match once, and I was like, all right, who made the video? Who did it? It was like 2 matches into the night, and I was like, all right, who did it? Come on. Because I think that's the biggest shock with stuff like that is just like it comes out of nowhere sometimes.
Yeah.
Like nothing like was indicating this was gonna happen. Lo and behold, someone told me you did it, and I was like, oh, that makes a lot of sense. Um, it's really funny too because I have a Chucky build that it's not named after me, but it is my build, and I'm curious how many people run it, if any. I've seen it a few
What is
times.
it?
It's the 10-meter terror radius Chucky. Strobe
Oh,
light, silk pillow, monitor and abuse, plaything, face the darkness, pentimento.
oh, interesting.
Basically, you go in and you don't you go in hidey ho mode. You immediately go out. You don't dash. You just hit the button and go out of it. And
Oh.
because of silk pillow and strobe light,
Oh, yeah.
yeah, your
You,
your terror
yeah.
radius is 10 meters wide.
Yeah, the idea is pretty good. You need to time it with the coming off cooldown. The
Mhm.
idea is good. I
Yeah.
never tried that.
Well, the other thing with it, Chucky has that 12-meter laugh, and that doesn't
Yeah.
happen for the terror radius. It only happens when he's undetectable. And playthings in there to synergize with Pentimento, and because they also don't hear the laugh when they're oblivious. And then Face of Darkness is there just for info, and then Monitor is there because Monitor. But like, especially when his cooldown was 10 seconds, it was really, in my opinion, it was really good.
Yeah.
Because you could just keep going in and out of hidey ho, and it wasn't really
Yeah.
that big of a deal. It still works, just not as good as it was. But yeah, that's my contribution to the Dead by Daylight communities. If anyone's ever seen that, because I've seen it a few times. Um, from Paul Velter, this is a long one. What do you think of the state of Survivor content creation?
What? That's open-ended.
It's
What do I
very.
think about the state of survivor content creation?
Let me see if
Uh,
they
so
bring up Mr. Taterhead and like how Survivor basically they're bringing up the fact that like Survivor content creation, for lack of a better word, and this is no hate to anybody,
yeah.
but it seems a little stale a lot of the times, where it's like,
There's limited things you can do, to
mm-hmm,
be honest. Like it's very like Survivor, you have more things to do, but like in a lot of like they're just not. I don't know, like it's a little bit cost because you can't use that many games, and a lot of the games they have the same pacing. But like if you don't get that much action as a single survivor, there's not that much you can do
mm-hmm,
to fit like the generic format of like Dead by the survivor content. So it's a little bit it's hard. And also a lot of people just play a lot more tactically. It takes long time to record like survivor content,
mm-hmm.
honestly. It has gotten progressively harder. In like 2020, I feel like everyone just played for chases. Nobody cared about anything. It's like you run into the killer's face, he chases you. Got them. So do that like 3 times, you have a survivor video. But nowadays, like the it has changed a lot. And if you want a good video, then you will need a lot of game time and a lot of games because like the majority of games are just not that interesting.
Fair enough. Well, I mean, I've also said that like Survivors, like again, you also have to get lucky because if you're not constantly being chased by the killer, because this happens to me all the time on Survivor. Sometimes I just happen to be the one not getting chased. And it's like if I wanted to make it into a video, it's like, well, I just kind of have to hope I get a match where I don't end up sitting on gens the whole time, or
Yeah, on Killer it's a lot easier, honestly. I can honestly press record and like 80% of the games are totally okay. I
mhm,
can just use them. Because like I'm way more in control of the pacing of the game
right.
when I'm on Killer. On Survivor, you have zero control over the pacing. The killer dictates everything. And if you're getting bled out that game, they're getting bled out that game. You know? And
Yeah.
there's nothing you can do about that. So yeah, that's the thing that makes Survivor content very harder.
Hmm.
Harder.
Yeah,
Was
and
like why I like to do things like the videos that I just upload, like experiments, like over like this is like 60 games, like
mhm,
what I do there, and just like, yeah, that's kind of cool. Shows a little bit more of the nature of the beast,
mhm.
if you might say so. Like sometimes you just get left by your teammates. That's solo queue in a nutshell. But yeah, it's becoming harder and harder. And I think everyone I'm talking to that also does survival content also realized this. I talked to JM earlier, and he also like, I mean, it's like it feels like 1 or 4 games are like usable or
Mhm.
like significant.
I think another problem with it is that like, uh, going back to scavenger, God, we brought this perk up so much. But scavenger, for example, like if you wanted to do a video on like on that perk in specific, it's literally you just sitting on a gen, because it has nothing to do with chase, it has nothing to do with killer interaction. It's so like, how are you supposed to make an entertaining video? I mean, some people probably could, but like it's not easy. Um, and with killer, it's like if you want to make a video on like coup de grace, like you can show it being used, right? You can show it actually like having an impact in like a fun and interesting way sometimes. Or like even with like the newest perk, like all shaking thunder. That's the first time I've ever used its actual name. it's it's like you could, again, you can make a video. It might take a couple matches still, but you can make a video showcasing that, how the perk works and what it does, and it's still being entertaining. But again, a lot of survivor perks, I feel like other than like a select few, it's very difficult to do that on.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah. It's like yeah, so what I cut it hard. I don't know. It's like I oftentimes also like a lot of the comments you get from on these that point out these obvious issues that I just said, and it's like, oh my god, you're only playing against babies, or like these
that
kind of like
too, that
sentiments.
too.
I was like, I swear, like these people have never tried making these videos, like because they would realize the struggle you go through if you were to try and like you try to make something entertaining. Because sometimes you just yeah, it's just like I don't know, like there's nothing in the game that
Like,
you can use for a video if your teammate is getting tunneled.
yeah.
There's nothing you can do. Like there's no point in showing that video. And like yeah, guess what? Like the ones that still commit are probably the less experienced players.
Mhm.
That's kind of like a problem that DBD has, like or survival content in general. Because on Killer, I don't have that problem. I can play against really good players. I can still make content. Obviously, like really, really good. Like maybe I need to play in like unpleasant ways, and then it becomes worse. But like, it doesn't really suffer from the same problem that Survivor does.
Yeah, for sure. And again, it's like a struggle is only so fun to watch, but for so long. Like
Yeah.
everyone loves a redemption story, but like it the struggle can't be like half the video, you know?
Yeah, I don't know. It's also just becomes really boring
Hmm.
because you can only talk about that so many times. Like, I don't know. Nobody wants to hear you whine about solo queue for the 20 billionth time. Like, everyone knows.
Tell that
Like
to
I'm here to entertain people, you
yeah,
know? Like,
tell that to Twitter.
yeah.
Um branching off of that a little bit, this is about killers, but would keeping the strengths of S tier killers but introducing more counterplay options against them specifically be a good course to take for killer balance? For example, Lightborn on Nurse or Lightburn on Nurse.
Uh, I I don't think S tier killers are a good thing for the game.
Mm-hmm.
I think they should get nerfed. And what I mean is like, I think like especially now with like the announcement of the spawn changes,
Mm-hmm.
I think Billy and Blight need enough to
Oh,
be
they're going to be a
completely
menace.
specific.
Billy's going to be a
Because,
menace with that in particular.
yeah, because like they're both combine too much mobility and lethality, especially if they know where everyone spawns. It's gonna be a shit
I
show. I think they both need enough, and
I
like obviously Nas needs enough too. That's
yeah.
my opinion on it.
I wonder if Infectious will get ran more because of that.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, you can assume lethal infectious. Like the thing is, if you play Billy right,
Mm-hmm.
there are four survivors in one corner. Like four survivors cannot share a jungle gym. Someone is going to be out of position.
Right.
Someone is going to go down for free. Like then you probably have infectious and like it's going to be it's going to be a race to the fastest 4K. Dude, I'm going to make content on that as soon as that comes out. I mean, it's a little bit sad, but I will definitely do it. I'll play Billy, and yeah, like because like obviously that's like supreme conditions to get like a 1 minute 4K.
Oh yeah. Oh god, the speedrunning community is gonna go insane with this. Yeah,
Yeah,
because I'm just sitting here thinking Billy with lethal, infectious, force hesitation.
yeah,
Like they're all right there.
yeah. If you get a snipe, you can probably end the game in like 30 seconds
I
if you have forced hesitation.
they mentioned that the offerings were also getting adjusted. I really do hope they switch the which offerings I'm talking about, right? The spawn ones.
Yeah.
Yeah, I really hope they switch the sides that they're used on. Or no, never mind. They're no, they are currently like that, right? The survivor one makes you all
Yeah.
spawn farther apart, doesn't it?
I mean, I'm gonna guess they're gonna get rid of the offerings. To be honest,
Uh,
like I'm pretty sure. Like it would make no sense to keep them.
yeah, if they do though, I'm curious if people will start bringing them because of that. That's
I mean,
it.
as a consultant, I would
Mhm.
probably advise not keeping them for the simple reason of simplicity. It's like
Mhm.
then you can just explain to us, oh, you all spawn with your teammates. That makes a lot of sense.
Well, it
I mean,
also
that's yeah,
it also removes a variable to balance. It's like, okay, well, they're spawning too
yeah,
close together. We can spread them apart on our own, rather than, oh, well, they spawn too close together, but they do have this offering they can bring, so we have to take that into account. So it's like if you remove them, then again it just gets rid of that variable. Um, God, I am really excited for the next few months just thinking about that alone.
yeah.
Uh, Next is from Melon fans. God, I one day.
Mm.
Um, this is about DBD comp. What is your opinion on it on the content creation side? It's a very open-ended question. They have no qualifiers. I guess,
All
just
right. From the content creation side, bad. Honestly,
mm,
doesn't make much sense. To be honest, I'm passionate about it.
mm-hmm,
I have some friends in the game. There's some things that frustrate me about it. There's some things where I feel like not everyone is pulling on the same string. I think making content out of comp is like it's like not worth the effort to be honest. Like I hosted 2 tournaments last year. There was so much effort. I also like lost so much money and time doing them. It was not worth it at all. In zero, in like no way. Like no matter what viewpoint you look at it, it was not worth the effort. But yeah, I'm still really passionate about it. But like at the same time, like if I want to be completely rational, then I would completely drop that and
Mhm.
like not have anything to do with it from a content creator perspective.
Fair enough. I honestly, I feel like I don't like see it that often, other than when it's something bad. If I'm honest.
I mean, it's like, nah. What I mean by that is like, I don't know, like the spring invitational. How much
Hmm.
price did I have? Like $4,000. I paid my staff. I spent hundreds of hours into the production and organizing. I was like, oh my god, I can just make 10 YouTube videos. Like, I don't know, like there's no gain on the other side. I don't
I
know, but
I
I'm still passionate about it. But
well,
like, that's what I love doing.
I have struggled enough getting one person on here for a couple hours, let alone I can't even imagine. And I don't even pay anybody. So.
Yeah, scheduling with teams. Then people are upset because some rule was broken and they don't like what the staff did, and
Hmm.
blah 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 blah
Yeah, I wouldn't want to deal with the headache, and I commend you for even attempting to.
blah. Yeah.
Um, next, God, what? Can you guys have like names like Bob, please? From Saint Amasa Komota. Uh, For research purposes, have you ever thought about starting a fresh account, no paid DLC characters, and progressing that account in order to see how perks and certain design decisions are made by behavior if it hurts the new player experience?
Have I ever considered that? Little bit.
Mm-hmm.
To make a free to play account. Will I do it? Probably not, because like it's not worth the effort. And also like this is not something that I have like a lot of like, I don't know.
I
I mean,
think.
it's like it doesn't matter what I do in that regard. If I understand it or if I see a problem, I
Mhm.
don't have the means to fix it anyway. Like,
I
like
mean.
I as a consultant, I have zero. Okay, one thing about consultant that
Mhm.
might not be obvious to like the person. We get asked about things, and then we have influence. But like I have zero influence on topics that the developers don't care about. That might be weird to someone that, yeah. But like when it comes to the topics that the developers care about, I have more influence as a content creator than I have as a consultant. Because if they don't care about the topic yet, and I'm like, yo, this thing is like, they're like, well, nobody cares. Nobody asked this. Like they're not gonna say this, obviously. Like, no, they're very friendly. Okay, maybe I shouldn't have put it that way. But like
Shut up.
like I don't know. They just care about the topic at hand, what the designers care about, and then they care about our opinions about the topic that the designers care about.
Right.
So like I hope that makes it clear, but like it doesn't really matter what I think about the new player experience. As I
Mhm.
said in the not ready for FNAF video, I think it's pretty bad. But I think like the parks that are available are honestly not that much of a problem.
I think
But
honestly,
I
it's
think
it's it's more the killer perks that are a problem than the survivor ones.
the
If I'm
thing is
honest.
though, the thing is, I think that's pretty smart because at the beginning the game is pretty killer sided.
Hmm.
Pretty killer sided because like if you put beginners versus beginners, I think the killer is gonna have the upper hand more often than not.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree.
So but the survivors have a little bit better parks at the very beginning. So I don't know if that's intentional,
I'm just.
but I could imagine that that creates a balance in itself. But I don't know enough to like verify that
There's
thought.
sorry, I'm only laughing. So I did the I told you about that time I did the 10 matches of Chucky on a fresh account.
Yeah.
Um, I'm just remembering this moment on it was on Haddonfield, and there was a Michaela. I checked her profile; she had 20 hours in the game. Um, she lit three of her team. I was not camping. I literally hid in a corner after hooking everybody.
Yeah.
I was sitting there waiting for her to unhook her teammates. They all hit second stage, and I'm sitting there like, what is she doing? And then I heard a boon go off,
Oh my god.
and then she
Yeah.
finally unhooked them. And I was like giving them a chance because they were all gonna die anyways. And I was waiting for them to do gens. It took forever, and then I was still like, what are they doing? And then I heard another boon go. uh,
I
yeah.
mean, I think I derailed a little bit.
Hmm.
I don't know if I said it already, but I think there's like not much of a deeper purpose. And I think a lot of people are already aware that the new player experience is pretty bad. It's
Yeah.
like also I made a video on that. That's a really good video. I was like, there's no purpose in like doing that. Like there's
Hmm.
no gain.
Yeah, yeah, fair enough. I was just doing it just for not even really for research necessarily, just because I could, and I was trying not. I was
Yeah.
trying to be as like non-Smurfy as I could.
Yeah.
I wasn't trying to be out here ruining new players' games. I gave them a chance, and most of them didn't really take it. So, I mean, what more can
I
I do
watched
other
someone.
than sit in a corner for 5 minutes?
I watched a newbie play like the other day, Survivor, and there were obvious Smurfs on the Survivor team. It was actually quite interesting to see.
Mm,
Like, I don't know.
it's
It
it
was a bit odd.
yeah. I mean, you do see it from time to time. It's no different than any other game. It's weird too because
Yeah.
this game isn't free, at least on most platforms.
Yeah.
Um, so it's really interesting to see that people pay $20 to do that. Um, we got one more question. It looks like, unless you have anything else to add to that for the new player experience.
No.
Um, I will also say it really does also depend on what perks FNAF brings because that's going to influence it as well.
True.
Because those
True.
will be counted into the perks since they're
Do you think
probably
they should be overpowered?
no. See, it's funny.
No.
It's funny. So
Yeah.
okay, the Resident Evil perks are a good example of this. At least Leon and Jill's, right? Because a lot of people have praised like that you need to do gens to get blast mine and flashbang, so it like teaches new players to actually do the objective. Um,
Yeah.
I don't think they should be OP or anything like that, or really good.
Nah, not OP, but I think the worst case is if they're useless. To be honest.
Yeah, I do hope that they find a way to balance it around teaching a newer player how to play killer properly in some way, shape, or form. I don't know how they would do that. Maybe one that like encourages them to actually hook. Maybe one that like does something with like having them not be scared of being stunned. I don't know, something like that. Because I know that for like a newer killer player, I don't know if how often you watch newer killer players play. Some are like absolutely terrified of getting stunned by a pallet.
Yeah.
So it's like I would love or even hooking or like
Actually, I don't even know. They said once that they have a soft rule for making parks. They
mhm.
said this publicly. One should be beginner friendly, one should be goofy, and one should be competitively viable.
Yeah, they've said
So that
I've mentioned
always,
it. Yeah, I've mentioned it before with like unknowns perks are like a very good example of this.
yeah,
Um, so yeah, I mean for sure. I just I hope at least one or two of them is new player friendly in the sense of teaching people how to play the game.
yeah, would be good.
Because I think it's a good way to teach people how to play the game is perk design. And I think
True.
it's one that like gets overlooked a lot because I mean Kindred is a very good teaching tool. It's also a very good perk in general, but you know no one really runs it, even especially new players. I see very few new players running it. They always like gravitate towards like sprint burst most of the time.
Yeah,
um, so we'll see. I don't want them to be OP. Um, but I mean, then again, that's also like a nothing statement because you know sometimes you design something you don't think it's that bad, you play tested it and it's fine, and then it gets to the live game and you're like, oh, this is actually a problem.
yeah. I say that happens pretty rarely.
Yeah.
Honestly,
Mm.
the way this works is like if something, like more often than not, it's like it's what happens if something is like way too strong or something, is that there was a state beforehand, like hypothetically, it's like very weak, and then it gets overbuffed, and
Mhm.
that's the first version that the public sees,
It's
and then that version is, but like yeah,
yeah, it's called it's horseshoe balancing is what I call it. You go one
yeah,
side, it's too much. You go the other side, it's
yeah,
too much, and you keep doing that till it's in the middle.
yeah.
Um, I feel like I say this is what they were trying to do with Sadako, where they because how many she's it's three. She's had three reworks, right?
Yeah, yeah,
I can't keep up anymore. But yeah, I feel like that's what they were trying to do with Sadako is just the pendulum swings one way or the other until they get it right. And it's arguable if they did or not. I feel like they're doing the same thing kind of with Dracula at the moment too. Um, where they're still trying to figure out exactly what they want him to do and where they want him to be strength wise. Because I know like right now a lot of people complain about how Hellfire is on both sides for some reason. That will never not be funny to me when like people get mad about something being OP and then on the other side they say it's not good and then it's a it's a different like community topic on that one though.
Hmm?
Um the last question, and this is kind of a personal question it looks like, but from Noob King, Have you ever had to change a part slash wording of a script because you thought your influence could have caused more negativity in the community?
Of course, I mean, wording matters. The
Mm-hmm.
way you word things has a big influence, and you always need to be careful. I mean, yeah, every time. I always think about like the way you word things has massive impact on how
Mm-hmm.
you get perceived. And that's not really. I mean, it's like yeah, that's how. I mean, it's not even. I feel like that's like a lesson for life, not only for content creation. I
Mm-hmm.
think it's something that people, especially on the internet, are oftentimes not aware of. The way they word things matters a lot and how they get perceived. But yeah,
It's not even
uh,
necessarily wording. I would also say like inflection matters as well. And I know in text form it's very hard to do because a lot of times the inflection is just assumed, but especially in videos and stuff, inflection matters so much.
yeah.
Um, but do you have any again, you don't have to say it if you don't want to, but do you have any examples of this?
No,
No? Okay.
I mean, oh, every time I write a script, though, like honestly, like I don't know if I changed anything, but
Hmm.
like I'm very, very aware of it
Hmm.
while writing a script every
How
time.
how many drafts do you go through, give or take?
Wow. I mean, it's like oftentimes when I write something, a script or something,
Hmm.
oftentimes I write it on one day, I let it sleep
Hmm.
and like let it out of my head, then I read it again, and then I go at it with a fresh mind. And like oftentimes the second version is the one I take then.
Yeah, it's a good habit. Yeah. Um, but that was the last question, Hens.
Damn.
I know we kind of got derailed, and I know we kind of skirted around the points, but or the main topic, but that's kind of how these go. But unless you have anything else to add, I think I'll let you go here in a second.
No, that was fun though.
Yeah.
Lots of interesting talk.
And again, thank you for this. I know I keep saying it over and over and over again, but it really does mean a lot that you even said yes to this. uh, but I'll go ahead and let you go. To anyone listening on the YouTube side of things, Hens' stuff will be below. Again, I don't know how you don't know
Yeah.
who Hens is. Uh, but the YouTube, the Twitch, the Twitters, the Blue Sky. I don't know if you have one, but if you do,
I do, but I don't actively use it.
yeah, same,
Maybe I
same.
should.
I've been trying to be better about Blue Sky, but yeah. Um, but yeah, I love you guys. Have a good one, and yeah, bye.